Mic check, 1 2 1 2. All right, mic check, 1 2 1 2. Okay, perfect. All right, we'll be right back. All right, mic check, 1 2 1 2. Perfect setting. All right, good. We got it going on right now. Okay. Let's just set up the thumbnail, get everything going, and then we will be on in just a second. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Mic check 1 2 1 2. All right. So, my man says, David Rivera, shout out to you, my man. He says, I hope you get to 1,000 subs. Wow, man, thank you very much. That is mighty kind of you. That is absolutely kind of you. I hope I do get to that stage too. And you know what? I got a lot to talk to you about, more than just a particular topic that we had brought up on the title and on the thumbnail. And it's this, right? Obviously, so today, as you know, is Thanksgiving, right? As a Muslim, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. We are thankful for the fact that we get to have the day off like everybody else. But ultimately, as a Muslim, we only celebrate Eid and Ramadan. And believe it or not, if you really want to live the Orthodox Islamic life, you should also not practice your birthday, believe it or not. Well, the reason for that is because there's a lot of vanity that goes into birthdays, right? And this is a proven fact. Every time there is a birthday, somebody has to be uplifted up, and we get it. That is the day of your birth. But ultimately, the westernized version of what a birthday is literally to celebrate your own arrogance, right? That's really what it comes down to. So that is why it is not necessarily something that is conducive to an Islamic lifestyle. Neither is Thanksgiving. Obviously, there is no reason to celebrate it other than, of course, if you are a non-Muslim. But that is our opinion of this particular matter, right? Also, another thing that I'd like to bring up, you know, is obviously one of the biggest stigmas that go on in Thanksgiving is that many families don't talk to each other, or if they do get together for Thanksgiving, for whatever reason, they get into a fight, they get into a scuffle, they get it. I mean, you could watch thousands and thousands of videos regarding family outbursts during Thanksgiving. Well, why is that? Well, I think we live in a society right now where we are virtually different from those of our family members, especially in a Western, side of things. Bob, 1992 says, what does that mean? I have to stop being gay if I want to be an Orthodox Muslim? Well, yes, that is literally one of the criteria. If not, look, here's the thing, right? I get what you're trying to do, and I understand it. I'm just going to call it out right out front. I'm sure you mean well, and I'm sure you're well-intended, but I know there's a joke behind what you are saying. That particular G word that you're talking about, that is the bare minimum. That is literally the bare minimum of what you should not be when you are a Muslim, right? That is the bare minimum, right? To say otherwise, I mean, I don't know, but that's just where I stand on things. Obviously, Mayor Mamdani may feel differently, but that's a whole nother subject for another time. Victory says bright and early. Shout out to you, Bright and Victory. Bright and early with that one. He says can't stop, won't stop. That's right. No Diddy. No Diddy, though. Diddy used to say you can't stop, won't stop all the time. So, you know, I'm sure Conor McGregor, a part of him, feels a little bit of a shame that he took that photo op with P. Diddy back in, I believe it was 2015 or something like that, right? 10 years ago, but my goodness, man. Very different P. Diddy. I mean, he had full black hair, right? Black hair like mine, you know, young looking, vibrant, and, you know, obviously things change after that. Drizzy Goat says, who is Ilya fighting next? Very good question. There's a good chance it's going to be Islam Makhachev. But then Islam Makhachev is also talking about maybe fighting Ian Garry. Or I don't know, maybe Ian Garry is just the only one that's, you know, calling that out and nobody really hears his name. You know, meanwhile, he hears Islam trying to find a new opponent at 170. People are trying to put him up against Morales. People are trying to put him up against, Ian Garry, right? Or Ian Garry is at least trying to put him up on that. So Victory says, can gay Muslims still get to Jahannam? My answer to that is probably not, right? Because I think that being of that persuasion, I think what happens is that you ultimately have failed the ultimate test of Allah. Now, what is the ultimate test of Allah? Well, our test on earth is to be tested. And you know what? I'm glad I mentioned this in the midst of, a very interesting question, a very controversial question at that. And the reason why I thought that was important to bring up is because, well, I want you to think about it like this, right? A life is a test, okay? And where I was going to get at with this is the reason why I don't get mad at things anymore the way that I used to, or get provoked. I mean, look, do I get angry? Do I lose my temper? Do I go and, crash out, sometimes here and there? Yes. But I think I'm more, it's crazy, but at 40 years old, I am really now starting to understand that is not the best solution to things. And I'm going to tell you why, right? Because Allah is ultimately in control of things, right? And when you know that Allah is in control of things, you sort of have more peace in your heart in ways that you would never really have if, let's say, you are a super angst teenager, right? So that's something you have to, really be cognizant of. Another thing that, I want you to be cognizant of with that particular question that you asked, Marty, is that life is a test, right? If you are of that persuasion, you failed the test because ultimately you are not contributing to the reproduction of your fellow human man, right? Your offsprings. You're not developing any offsprings. You're not developing any type of community, right? You're not building a tribe, or you're not contributing to your tribe, or whatever that may be, right? So yeah, ultimately it is a test. This life is a test from Allah, and believe it or not, that is the important thesis of this whole entire live stream that we are going to do. Okay, but before we get to that, let's read some of these questions right here. Drizzy Goat says, I'm a Puff fan. Are you now? Okay, that's very interesting that you're a P. Diddy fan. Okay, Victory says, I think he should fight Armin, but I bet they make them fight Patty. You know what? Here's what's funny about Ilia Topuria, what I found out about Ilia Topuria, right? Patty may not even be the case. In fact, Ilia Topuria may not even be a 155 champion at some point, and I'm not talking about losing it in the cage. I'm talking about losing it on email and on paper. Okay, revelation, Ilia Topuria might get stripped of his title. Why? Because he doesn't want to defend his belt in January, and January is a very big month for the UFC. The UFC has Paramount. Its first Paramount deal. ESPN is sort of phasing out, right? I started noticing all these ESPN Instagram or Facebook reels that they were showing, and it's like, I'm thinking, man, what are they going to do once they are done with that? Are they just going to continue making, like, for example, John Jones dancing in Chechnya, that little Chechnyan dance that, that he does, they kind of do this, you know what I mean? Like how they dance or all that, but with the Arabs, they kind of dance like, they're, fixing a light bulb, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how they do it. But on any regard, that's how the Chechnyians do it. It's like they're riding, like a big motorcycle or something, right? But awesome reels that they are sharing of John Jones in Chechnya. And I'm thinking, man, once ESPN leaves UFC, or UFC leaves ESPN, what are they going to do? They're going to make PFL, highlight reels of, I don't know who, Usman or Magomedov doing what? Who else is in the PFL that's very prominent? Who knows? I mean, some of the fighters that were doing good in the UFC at some point and just decided to go convert over to PFL. Shane Burgos is one of them. Victory says there's no way Ilia should move up to 170. Too many fights for both guys. They shouldn't be holding up the divisions. Very true. But if they want Islam and Ilia Topuria next, what can you do? Imagine if Donald Trump was the one that's saying, hey, listen, why don't you, Dano, I really like Islam, right? Because, Khabib is my favorite fighter. That's what he basically had said to the world at one point. And by the way, Conor McGregor was so pissed when he heard Donald Trump say that, right? It was almost like he was back to 2015 Conor McGregor, where he basically, yeah, he basically trashed Trump, man. For his comments about the Ronda Rousey fight. So, very interesting how he just, basically changed and became, MAGA Connor, and then decided to take up right-wing politics in Ireland. Jersey Goat says, Armin is just another Oliveira. They had a close matchup. Yes. By the way, guys, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get this thing cracking, okay? Drizzy Goat says, I say Ilya should go big and move up to 170. There are bums at 155. Yes, 156, 155. Okay, a little typo there. Drizzy Goat says, I'm a massive P. Diddy and R. Kelly fan. Oh, boy. Man, you must get a lot of hate mail. I could promise you that, right? JC Smooth, shout out to you. This is the first time I've seen you here. Shout out to you, my man. He says, are you an NFL fan? Who's your sleeper to make a run in the NFC? You know what, JC, unfortunately, I am not an NFL fan. I'm more of a casual when it comes to it. Like, for example, if there's a Super Bowl going on, or if friends of mine want to get together, to watch a game or something like that, more than likely going to be at a Super Bowl. That's the most football that I do watch. But if you care to educate me on that matter, I'm more than recipient of that, knowledge of exchange, right? So I'll exchange some knowledge of MMA with you, and you can exchange some NFL knowledge with me. So he says Armin isn't a bum. Very true, right? Especially not with the kind of performance that he put on against what's his name, Dan Hooker. Jersey Goat says Islam has a better legacy than Khabib. I think I would agree with that, right? Considering the fact that Islam Makhachev has achieved something that Khabib was not willing to do, which is move up a weight. Now, I think the reason for that is because they wanted to do something that is a little bit different than that of, let's say, Khabib. Now, who is the next 155 champ in their camp? You know who it is? It is Usman Nurmagomedov. It is only a matter of time that they sign Usman Nurmagomedov. Once they sign Usman automatically in his first UFC fight, top 10. Top 10 guy. Straight away, they're going to give him a top 10 guy. Okay, once they give him a top 10 guy, he's going to win, obviously. It's going to be a very favorable matchup at 155, whoever that may be at the time, or whoever that is right now. It's going to be a very favorable matchup. He's going to beat a top 10 guy, then he's going to beat a top 5 guy. 2 fights in, 3 fights in, he gets a title shot. He becomes the 155 champ. Now, once Usman becomes the 155 champ, what is he going to do different than, let's say, Khabib, or let's say Islam Makhachev? Is he going to do what Islam Makhachev did and move up to 170? My answer is no. Usman is a little bit smaller than, let's say, of the frame that Islam has. But who knows, right? He's a young man. We all grow as we age, right? As you age, you actually gain more weight, whether you're fat or not. It's just, a matter of what they call man muscles, right? So on that regard, Usman, what he's going to do is defend the 155 belt multiple times. In fact, who has the most title defenses at 155? I believe it is Ben Smooth Henderson, is it not? Let's go see. Who has most title defenses? Most title defenses in UFC's 155 division. So the most title defenses in the UFC's lightweight division is a three-way tie. Wow, okay. So literally, you can only defend a lightweight title 3 times, right? Very interesting, right? The three-way tie. It's a three-way tie. Khabib, BJ Penn, Frankie Edgar, and Ben Smooth Henderson. That's it. That's all that you get with that one. Drizzy Goat says, thoughts on Tom's situation. Is he a fraud? You think he beats Gon in a rematch? No, I do not. That's a very interesting question. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think that he beats, yeah, I don't think that he beats Gon at all, right? I think we saw the fight enough to know what Tom Aspinall can do. Understand this. Tom Aspinall is a knockout artist. But Cyril Gane has proved that he can outstrike him, right? He can outmaneuver him. He can dodge his strikes. Not only that, stuff his takedowns, okay? Tom's number one weapon, aside from a knockout power, which he clearly cannot do to Gane, is submissions. Well, how are you going to have submissions when you can't even take the guy down? So I don't think that he can beat Gane. I think that I go with the narrative. And again, I'm not one of these people that likes to speak in definitive terms, like as if I have proof of it, because honestly, there is no proof of it. But when you're a fighter, you know, and, you know, Waldo Costa sort of exposed the notion that you can't fight with your eyes, you know, poked like that, right? And then there's this whole speculation of, you know, it was the wrong eye that he was complaining about, you know, so basically, you know, there's a lot of plausible reasons to admit that, you know what, maybe Tom Aspinall wanted a way out because he knew that somehow this was going to, you know, affect him as the fight went on, affect him in a way that would be negative towards his side. David, with the high five gift, thank you, my man. Shout out to you on that, my man. He says, Tom definitely wanted to get the heck out of the fight. Correct. I felt that. David Rivera with the period on it. All right. Shout out to you on that. Thank you for that small little comment. I don't know if that was a typo or if that, you know, had any legitimate meaning behind it. But, all right, so let's get to this crypto scam thing, right? Because MMA Joey, and I know how you guys feel about MMA Joey. Actually, I tend to kind of like him, right? I know that a lot of people are saying that he's a bit of a shield towards the Dagestani fighters and the Muslim fighters. But quite frankly, you know what, man? I think he's a pretty solid guy, in my opinion. I think he's a pretty solid guy. I think that he's, in the words of Trump, you know, he's one hell of a guy. He's one hell of a guy. What can I say? He's one hell of a guy. Yeah, he's one hell of a guy. What? Let's see. Okay, so let's get back to his video that he did, right, about crypto scams. Before I get to that, I want to get to this, right? I want to tell you this. Look. By the way, don't misconstrue. This is absolutely in relation to this. Look, blood is not family, okay? I need you guys to understand it, and I know this is going to resonate with a lot of you who are going to head into your Thanksgiving day. I know that it's morning, bright and early in the West Coast right now, 5 a.m. In the afternoon. You're probably going to, you know, get ready to make way to go to Thanksgiving tonight. Or whatever. Obviously, nothing that I'll be celebrating, but obviously I will be here, you know, to do what I normally do on a daily basis. And if so that people happen to be home, great. Then I'm just going to stream even more as a result of that, considering the fact that, hey, you know, people are going to be home. But nonetheless, listen, a lot of you come from, you know, very toxic families, okay? Very toxic families. And a lot of you perpetuate that by allowing them to be who they are. A lot of you don't go into this no contact rule that you should, because you ultimately, many of your family members affect your mental health, and you just allow it to happen over and over again. But guess what? It is the people who have the intelligence. It is the people who have the wits and all. It is the people who have the courage, more importantly, to say, no, you know what? I don't want to deal with this toxicity. I don't want to deal with this comparison that you do with the other siblings. I don't want to deal with all of these snide remarks that you make for one reason or another, to basically just bash me or this, that, and the other, right? Look, in my experience, I've noticed that friends and people who are in gangs, or people who are in military organizations, or people who are in basketball teams, football teams, hell, MMA teams, guess what, man? They are much more of a family than, let's say, the conventional families that you see out there. And that's just the reality of things. Now, here's an interesting thing about Conor McGregor and Khabib, because I told you that this relates to them, right? They seem to have, both of them, for as much of an asshole as Conor McGregor is, he has a very solid family around him, okay? His wife, Dee Devlin, has been with him every step of the way, right? The definition of a ride or die chick, right? And this is me saying this from a Team Khabib standpoint, right? This is something that I notice about Conor McGregor. His mother is very loyal to him. His father is very loyal to him. Although I will say that him and his father sort of have this narcissistic relationship going on, Conor McGregor and his dad, right? Well, why do I say that? You want to know why Conor McGregor is so arrogant? The reason why he's so arrogant is because when he was coming up trying to be a Cage Warriors champion in the regional days, his father was worried about the money that he was making, or the lack of, or the future that Conor had. What did Conor's dad want him to do? He wanted him to live a normal life, to basically work as a plumber and not worry about anything else. Can you imagine? You imagine what the world of MMA would be if Conor McGregor decided to listen to the naysayers? So even as loyal as his family is, I will also say that I think that his family is very much fickle, right? Very much fickle in a sense where if Conor McGregor didn't have the money in the world, or was that plumber that his dad wanted or destined him to be, I don't think that they would have the love and admiration that they do for him now. And also, I don't think that they would allow him to get away with these many things that he gets away with, let alone even support him for it. But because he is Conor McGregor, literally the king of MMA pay-per-view, he gets away with certain things, not only with his family, but also with his country. But although his country right now is turning their backs on him, right? Which is why he goes into this whole virtue signaling thing about, oh, I am now a Christian, I am now a reformed man, I am now a changed man, or this and that. And I think all of that is just, an absolute crock of ish, in my honest opinion, right? I think it's virtue signaling at best. It is no different than Charlie Sheen coming up with this Netflix series saying, well, I am now a changed man. I'm now a changed man. I'm Charlie Sheen. I'm now a changed man. Look, notice how the Irish are not buying any of this, right? It is only the American fans that are buying into Conor McGregor, and it is so weird. It is so Walmart brand-like of him. Really. I mean, really, think about it, right? All of these people in Ireland are condemning Conor McGregor, canceling Conor McGregor. Meanwhile, here's these American fans who know nothing about him. And by the way, let's be honest about this. There's many white Americans out there that love to identify as Irish. Oh, I'm Irish. They'll wear the white and green t-shirt that says, kiss me, I'm Irish, during St. Patrick's month, right, on March, right? And it's like, well, your last name is Smith. Your last name is Miller. You know what I mean? Like, how are you Irish? This is an Anglo-Saxon name, but nonetheless, Drizzy Goat says, McGregor never was a great fighter, though. You know what? He was great for what was presented to him, and you could say that he was a UFC project because they did match him up to the best ability they can to get him up there with Jose Aldo, and the next thing you know, he's fighting the best featherweight in the world, knocks him out in 15 seconds. Drizzy Goat says, Ilya and Volk, better career than McGregor. Huh. Ilya and Volk a better career than McGregor? Um, in terms of being a 145er, yes. In terms of being a 155er, I think that Ilya and Conor have, very similar, career merits as a 155er. Drizzy Goat says McGregor is over the hump, bro. It's not 2016 anymore. Move on. Correct. He says, so since we don't live in Ireland, we have no idea who Conor's character is. Yes, Jaden, that is a very good assessment right there. He said, Lord bless your brain cells. Lord bless your brain cells. He says, so since we don't live in Ireland, we have no idea what Conor's character is. Okay, I would agree with that, but when you say Lord bless your brain cells, I don't know if you're meaning that as a backhanded compliment or you're really meaning that as a compliment. But on any regard, yes, you're right. We're not in Ireland to know what Conor does, but I'm an Arab American that lives in California, right? Very far from Ireland, obviously, but we have the internet. I can literally go on the internet and find out what Conor does. And by the way, they're going to let you know anyway. Oh, Conor was rolling around with a Mac 10, flashing it around his Lamborghini, driving around Ireland. And next thing you know, the Garda raided his house and, and took his guns away. That's literally what happened. And you could literally look that up. Now, look, here's the thing, right? It's not ABC News. It's, you don't live in the UK, that has BBC News, or you don't live in Ireland to see RTE TV, right? But there is the internet, and if you look hard enough, you can find information about him, just not right up front in your face the way that you would if, let's say, you were in Ireland watching RTE TV. Drizzy Goat says, Ilya is way more well-rounded than McGregor. Ilya is special. Yes, I would agree with that. Victories agrees with your assessment. Also, he's well-rounded due to the fact that he has a wrestling background. He's got a judo background. He can wrestle. He can grapple. Whereas with Conor McGregor, he's got decent grappling, but not at the level of Ilia Topuria, I think, especially for a European fighter, right? A European-based fighter, that is. Fresh Melon Juice says, David says, I hope you get famous. Thank you. Thank you for that, man. I do too. This is why I do this, because, I've basically done everything else that I've wanted to do in life. Now, the next thing to do is to be, a famous YouTuber, right? So that is, that is the next step. Inshallah, brother. Thank you for your kind words and your words of encouragement. Now, on to Fresh Melon Juice. He's coming at you, Kyrie. He's making fun of you. I think he will get you in a fight easy. Yeah, okay. Well, by the way, I don't think you were here earlier when I had mentioned Fresh that, as I got older, I realized that, I shouldn't react to everything anymore, right? Like, for example, when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, okay, if I got in a road rage situation, do you know what I would do to you? I would literally follow you home. Okay, I would literally follow you home. If you gave me a middle finger in the middle of the street, or because, you cut me off, or I got mad at, that, or whatever, because you cut me off, or we accidentally almost ran into each other, but we didn't, but thank God we didn't. I would get mad at you and I would basically follow you home. And if I had some homies in the car with me, you better believe that, you're in for, a rude awakening in terms of, the violent reprisals that I would place upon you. Okay, that's a fact. When I was 20 years old. Look, I pulled people out of cars literally in the middle of traffic when I was 20 years old. This is a known fact. People around Sacramento know this about me. Okay, I've pulled people out of cars. I've done things, to people in the name of basically road rage. Okay, he says, so you need homies to do something? No, not at all. I'm a very dangerous person by myself, but think about this, right? I'm a dangerous person by myself. I train martial arts, okay? Like any American, I practice the Second Amendment rights. You know, I'm very proficient in firearms, obviously indicative of military training. But understand this: if I rolled up at your house, okay, with I'm 6 feet, you know, 200 pounds. But imagine I rolled up at your house with you know, Samoan dudes that are 6'6", you know, guys the size of Mark Hunt, guys the size of Tai Tuivasa, guys the size of you know, name whatever NFL or rugby player you have. You're going to be scared to freaking death, and I can guarantee you that you will be scared to death. Because, you know, one, I'm already a scary person. If I decided to, you know, run up at your house, knock at your door, banging at your door like I'm the lead singer of Disturbed, going, ooh, wah, ah, come outside, rah. You know what I mean? Like, that's scary in and of itself. But if I rolled up at you with people, I mean, that's just what it is. You say typical tribe behavior. I get it. This is what we do here in California. This is, you know, this is the gangbang capital of the world. You know what I mean? And if you're worth anybody out here, you know, you better have homies to do something. But not to digress, okay? Yes, that's who I was when I was in my 20s. Now, this is what I'll do. This is what I will do on you know, on traffic incidents, right? People give me the finger. You know what I do? Okay, you know, this guy right here gives me the finger. You know what I do? That's it. What am I doing? I'm ignoring it. Why? Because I'm never going to see this person again. Number one, you know, and number two, when I was in my 20s, there wasn't much cameras rolling around that there is now, right? Like, look, there's no, man, when I first came to Stockton, bro, back in the mid 2000s, there was literally no cameras on the streets. Nobody had a Ring camera. Now, virtually everybody has a Ring camera, indicative of the Tyler Robinson shooting, right? What happened when after he shot Charlie Kirk, right? The entire rows of houses were seeing him running away from the campus, right? So, that's what I do now, right? I don't pay attention to road rage. I don't react to it, and it's simply because I just feel like, you know what, this is a waste of time. You know, I'd rather just be cool, calm, and collective, and not even worry about it, right? Not even give it any thought. Now, here's another thing, right? Fresh Melon Juice says, the Great White Hope should fix this problem. Americans shouldn't behave like this. In what way? Which one are you are you referring to? Are you referring to gang injunctions, or are you referring to the Tyler Robinson shooting? Let me know what you are referring to so we can have, you know, a proper discourse on that. But what I was saying was that, yes, this is not something that I'm going to engage in anymore. I'm not going to go and engage in, tribe animals. Okay, so you're talking about basically gangs in the first place. Okay, look, here's the thing about gangs, right? It's not illegal to be in a gang, okay? You can be a rapper and be in a gang so long as you don't do crimes under a name of Blood, Crip, Norteño, Sureño, Latin King, you know, Vice Lords, Disciples, you know, all of that, right? Basically all the gangs that the game mentioned in the West Side Story intro. What does he say? He says, you know, Crip niggas, Blood niggas, essays, Asians, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, white boys, Jamaicans, Latin Kings, Disciples, Vice Lords, Haitians, all these motherfuckers been patiently waiting. He says hyenas. Yes, that's literally what it is. You know, that's the name of the game. Like, if you mess about, you know, a group of guys are going to run up at you, you know, like a pack of hyenas. You know what I mean? That's just the reality of things here. But it's not illegal to be in a gang. Committing crimes under the name of those things are a crime, right? It's not illegal to be in a gang. It's not illegal to be in a biker club, okay? Because Hell's Angels, by the end of the day, look, the Hell's Angels, they're no different than, you know, the Bloods or the Crips or, you know, Norteño, Sureño, Latin Kings, Disciples, Vice Lords, Haitians, all the, you know, they're no different than that. But the reason why they don't get raided on a daily basis from the FBI to the, you know, to the DEA or, what other agencies are out there, any local police department or this and that. The reason why they don't get ran up on a daily basis is because they are a biker club, right? So yeah, so this idea that Trump wants to designate certain gangs as terrorists or whatever, I simply don't get it. You know, it's not really conducive. But then again, I don't know how much he can really prove with how the Constitution works and how the Constitution basically views gangs and whatnot. But on any regard, here's another reason why I don't react to people anymore, right? The reason why I don't react to people anymore is because I started to realize, look, growing up, now I told you about, California. Let's talk about Jersey, right? There was a lot of people that I could not stand in New Jersey. Brad Pitbull says gangs of DC. Oh yeah, by the way, the National Guard shooting, we're going to talk about that, by the way. Thank you, Brad Pitbull, for, by the way, Brad Pitbull, that's a very interesting name, a little play on words with Brad Pitt there. I like it, man. I like it. So what's the first rule of Fight Club, Brad? You know what the first rule of Fight Club is? We don't talk about Fight Club. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there. I like your screen name, by the way, because I'm... no lie, I'm a big Brad Pitt fan. I think that he does a lot of great movies. Fight Club, obviously, was a big part of my life when I was a teenager. It was one of my favorite movies. And by the way, a movie that has so much subliminal messaging behind it that it will blow your mind, and you need to watch it multiple times to really understand the subliminal message behind it. And maybe a few psychedelics here and there while watching it would probably open up the mind horizon. But on any regard, Pitbull says, right on, it's all good. Yes, there you go. Let me know what part of the world you are from, Brad. By the way, you are very welcome here. First time I've seen you here. Hope to see you again in the future here in this, in this live chat we have going. But, okay, so here's another reason why I don't get mad, right? Growing up in Jersey, there was a lot of people I couldn't stand. I could not stand Jersey, bro. Everybody was so toxic, okay? Everyone's attitude was so toxic. Like, you would think California, being that we live in a gang capital of the world, okay, being that we influence literally every gang on the planet, right, when it comes to this blood and Crip and shit and all of that, right, you would think that this would be the more negative side of America. It is not. It is the East Coast. The East Coast is so negative, right? Just the blatant racism that they have going on, right? The tribalism. And then on top of that, you'd hear old Italian guys saying, oh, F this N-word or this and that. Then you'd hear the black guys do the same thing. They're so anti-white. The white people are so anti-black. The black people are so anti-white, so on and so forth. This is the reality that I've literally lived in the East Coast. And then on top of that, people would do grimy things, right? They would invite somebody over who sells weed, and the next thing you know, they're, jumping people for no apparent reason. And this just doesn't happen here in the West Coast. Mark Haney, shout out to you, bro. He says, bro, how are you doing? How are you doing live at 6 a.m. LOL? I appreciate the hustle, but damn, LOL. Well, brother, as a Muslim, we do wake up in the morning to pray. And then right after that prayer, we obviously feel the enhancement of that power and then move on to our day. And, here I am, my man, just trying to, basically live out my dream and trying to accomplish it. So, so here I am doing it with you guys and, and all of that. He says, morning blunt. No, not yet. There you go, man. You almost caught me there, Fresh. All right. So yeah, no morning blunts today or ever, but yeah. So yeah, man, as I was saying, yeah, the East Coast, very negative, right? Very negative place. And Mark will tell you, out here when it comes to gangs, they're not just going to jump you for no reason. Like, no gangs are going to beat you up in California for no reason. But when it comes to the East Coast, they will absolutely do that. And here's another thing I really didn't like about the East Coast was that, everybody just felt like they were, a superstar. They felt like they were better than everybody else. At least this was my experience as a teenager, right? Because remember, the only thing that I remember from the time that I was in New Jersey was my teenage years. So any negative connotations that I'm going to bring out of it comes from my teenage years, and perhaps maybe it would have been different when I stayed there as an adult. But as soon as I got out of high school, I went into the Marine Corps, and the next thing you know, I'm in California and never left since. So he says, hey, man, love it. Good for you, my man. Thank you, my man. Thank you for that. So yeah. So with that, I grew a lot of resentment for a lot of people in the East Coast, right? I grew a lot of resentment for the people that I've ran across growing up my whole life. And then I realized something. Right? I realized when I started visiting back to New Jersey, I started to notice, man, you know what? These people that used to make fun of me, that used to pick on me, that used to try to press me or this and that, I look at their lives now and I say to myself, look how pathetic these people are. All of a sudden, now we're adults. Now they're broke. They're fat. They're lazy. On top of that, they're losing their hair. Yeah, I think we all are at some point, right? But not to the degree where, well, all right, I don't want to get into all of that, because then now I'm just, making personal attacks. But on any regard, the reason why I don't get mad at these people anymore, and by the way, I literally would go out of my way, right? I've gone to the East Coast before, flew over to the East Coast just to punch somebody in the face, and this is word on God on everything, I've done this. You know what I mean? Like a person talking smack online all the way from New Jersey, a person that I personally know, a person that me and my friends in the East Coast personally know. I've flown over there, confronted them in front of their house, bow, just like that. And I did that literally in my mid-30s, okay? You know what I mean? Because I'm like thinking, man, I have so much hate and resentment for these people. Then I started to realize, looking at how pathetic their lives are, looking at how Allah has punished them, looking at all the transgressions that they've committed over the years, you can now finally see that it was catching up to them. So now, there it is, man. That is the reason why I don't get mad anymore, because I realize that people, people are just, people are just reacting to all the horrible things that came to them. Let me see here what he says here. Mark Haney says, he said something about Thanksgiving here. Hold on, I missed it. No, okay. Oh, okay. He says, do Muslims have a goat on Thanksgiving? Well, I mean, Muslims shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving anyways, but I think most Muslims will have goat if, let's say, a baby is born, or when there's a wedding, normal parties and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm sure there are Muslims who do celebrate Thanksgiving, and I would imagine that goat would probably be a part of that, of that whole, meal that they are putting together. Brad Pitbull says, that's dedication. Shout out to you, my man. Have you had goat? Yes, I have. I've eaten goat. I've eaten camel as well. You've seen Armin Sarukian this week. He was there eating camel at, at Qatar. Very interesting. Him and Kamzat. I don't know if Kamzat was eating the camel, but certainly Kamzat was in that video. But, obviously the focus feature of that video was Armin Sarukian due to his win. And yeah, speaking of Armin Sarukian being the focus of that week, here's Ian Garry saying, he's like, hey man, your friend just won. You shouldn't be acting like that. You're a world champion. Fresh Melon Juice says, Jamaican goat is great. Gurry coat. Oh yes, man. Yes. Yes. Jamaicans are. That's the one thing that Jamaicans and Arabs have in common is, yeah, they do love them some goat for sure. So yeah. So okay. Now let's get to this MMA Joey video about Khabib. Humiliating Conor McGregor, because obviously yesterday I did something a little bit different, right? I talked about the idea that perhaps maybe Conor McGregor could be right. Could it be that Conor McGregor is correct about Khabib being a scammer? And I also talked about how, not every religious Muslim is a religious person, right? Or lives, let's say, the life of, let's say, Jesus, peace be upon him, or Muhammad, peace be upon him. They are not prophets. We are not prophets. Even though as Muslims, we try to emulate all the prophets of Allah, you know, through having a beard, through having, you know, wearing thobes or this and that. You've seen Jesus, peace be upon him. Obviously, he's worn thobes. All these, you know, all of these. He says, wow, wow, you would go against Khabib like that? No, what I am merely doing is exercising my reality as a journalist, right? Because we have to explore the idea that perhaps maybe he is a scammer, that perhaps maybe he is not a good Muslim, right? So we have to explore these ideas. Because remember, what does JD Vance say about me? What does the vice president say about me? He says, I love Kyrie. He's a good fellow Marine. JD Vance, where you at, JD Vance? Come on, my fellow Marine. Hoorah, where you at, bro? Where is this dude? You know, where is this dude to drop his line that he says about me? What does JD Vance say about me? He says, I love Kyrie. He lets you say whatever he wants, whether he agrees with it or not. And you could even say the most reprehensible things and he'll let you say it. And we need more people like that in America. He's a damn good American. That's what JD Vance would say about me. You know what I mean? Fresh Melon Juice says, what about the NYPD going to arrest John Pork and the crew? They arrested Conor, so the arrest will come within 3 weeks. You know what, man? I don't doubt that. But how are you going to get to them when they live in Dagestan, right? You know, maybe they're not going to fight in the U.S. And then by the time they come back and fight in the U.S., Mayor Eric Adams would have been long gone. And guess who's in the office? Mamdani. Oh, what? Dagestani's beating up Dylan Dennis? This is Mamdani right here, first day in office when he has to look at that police report. You understand? This is Mamdani on that subject, okay? Don't hear nothing, don't see nothing, and yeah, you know the deal with that. The Big Boy, shout out to Big Boy. He says, perhaps, bro, there is no perhaps. It's clear cut. The dude scammed fans for a dumb NFT. Okay, Big Boy. I'm glad that you mentioned that, right? Because this is very important to bring up, right? There is a different narrative to this, right? Now we're going to look at the narrative that Khabib did not scam anyone. And by the end of it all, I would like for you to come up with your own conclusions based on what we talked about yesterday. And you can rewatch the live stream that I did yesterday. It was only 36 minutes. We did go a little bit longer now than yesterday. But, you know, obviously I had other plans going on yesterday, which I had to attend to, right? But now, obviously, like everybody else, I'm free for Thanksgiving. So now we're going to explore why Khabib is not a scammer. Imagine that. So how biased of me, right? I spent 36 minutes on talking about how he could possibly be a scammer. Now I'm spending over an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours talking about how he's not. Victory says, I don't think anyone pressed charges. I think people actually got injured from the bus incident. There you go, right? False equivalence once again, trying to demonize and villainize Muslims to the best of his ability. Typical CIA behavior from Fresh Melon Juice. Fresh Melon Juice says not happening because Mamdani loves money like any politician. He played his in crazy white woman and Muslims. Now he will get his money from Trump. Okay, no charges needed. Well, we'll see about that. You know what? Trump and Mamdani are starting to develop a bit of, you know, an interesting relationship, right? I think, you know what? They both have the same intention. When Mamdani decided to take that train down to New York, down to Washington, D.C. from New York, I think his main intention was, you know what? I'm going to bring Trump to our side. I think that he believes... And I can understand why he would believe this, because I certainly believe this as well. I think Trump is a very reasonable man. If you sat down with him in person, right? And this is something the Saudis notice, right? You see, the one thing that Arabs are very good at, and the reason why the Saudis are having such a good relationship with Donald Trump right now, is because the Arabs know how to talk to people who are very arrogant. Okay, because quite frankly, a lot of Arabs are very arrogant. I can be very arrogant, you know what I mean, at times. Well, I try not to be, but, you know, we all are susceptible to these particular behaviors, right? But he knows how to exercise and massage the Saudis in particular. They know how to exercise and massage these egos. Trump, maybe he knows how to do that. Mamdani, I think they are trying to play a game with each other where they are trying to convert each other to their side. Fresh Melon Juice says, Obama pretended to be black, said yo, then scammed the American people. Well, I don't know how you pretend to be black, right? Like you either are or you're not. And as a Kenyan man that Obama is, I don't see why he's not black. I mean, if you mean by black in a way where he didn't live the American experience, okay, I could agree with that. But Fresh says it's their way to get into power. Yes, Victory says, have you guys seen all the things The Simpsons has predicted? Yes, it is quite freaky, right? It makes me wonder how they were able to come up with these things, or was it just, a mere coincidence? I don't know, but certainly I would like to see further investigations on this particular matter. Fresh says he was raised by two rich old white people. Okay. Big Boy says, I don't see how charges stick. They live in Russia. They say Dagestans do often forget they literally live in a country that is invading mother country for no reason. Good luck expediting. There you go, right? Yeah, it's a waste of time by Mayor Adams to do that. I mean, look, the only person that he can really prosecute there is Dylan Dennis, right? But then again, one can argue that Dylan Dennis really didn't throw the first punch. But yeah, Victory says Obama was whitewashed. Fresh is saying he went out of his way to act black, so to be relatable. Yeah, that's true. That's true, right? It's like, hey, baby. Hey, baby. Next thing you know, Obama starts talking like me. And then out of nowhere, he's like, hey, baby, what's up? What's up? This and that, right? Just out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, Obama will do that. But look, to be honest with you, as somebody who's been around, black gangsters and dudes in the streets or this and that, I never talked like that to them. The way that I'll tell you this, right? I met a few hood homies, behind the scenes, right? They said to me, they're like, hey, bro, you talk exactly like the way you do in your YouTube show. I was like, yeah, because that's really how I talk, guys. Like, do you think that I just talk like this so that I can, manipulate white people around the world to watch me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really do talk like this. And here's the thing, I don't talk any different when I'm in the hood. There's guys that are as highly educated as me, right? But also have ties to the streets. And then when they're in the streets, all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're, chucking and jiving, talking, ebonics or this and that. I'm like, bro, that's not you. You don't need to do that. You can talk normal and then there's these other guys that say, well, how are you from such and such when you talk like a square or this and that? I'm like, my boy, have you ever heard a leader of the Mexican mafia or the leader of the Italian mafia, better yet, the leader of the Irish cartel? Do you know how these guys talk? They talk in a very educated manner. They talk in a way where people can understand them. They're very articulate. They sound like a leader, okay? So just to give you guys a heads up on that, he says, I guess you could say if you go back to NY, you will be charged. Okay, I think what you mean to say is come back. Maybe you had a bit of a Freudian slip there by saying coke. Shout out to John Jones. Anyways, you will be charged, but I don't see that happening for real. Maybe for a headline. Okay. Unknown says, bro, I am Khabib fan, but he has scammed fans. It's NFT. Wow. Okay. Unknown 1999. Please elaborate for me your experience of you being scammed by Khabib, right? You would have been a very important, person to come into the chat yesterday, but you are here today. And even though we are looking at the opposite side, the opposite theory of these things, I would like to hear your experience as a fan who has claimed to be scammed by his NFTs. Now, let's hear what MMA Joey has to say about this, and let's see and compare this from yesterday's narrative. Okay, so before this video starts, I'm going to read the new comment by Unknown 1999. He says, NFT pump and dumps so you can buy the tokens and the price is high, then soon it crashes after mass sells off by the owner being Khabib. Okay, so Big Boy says, yeah, I meant comeback autocorrect is booty. Yes, yes. Well, I don't even know if you mean to say booty on that one. You must be from the East Coast, Big Boy, right? That sounds like East Coast vernaculars, right? When you say, oh, that's booty, you know, or this and that. Yeah, let me know what part of the world you are from, my man. Very interesting stuff there. All right, so
Medov absolutely humiliated drug addict alcoholics.
He says, Khabib absolutely humiliated drug addict alcoholic Conor McGregor. Unknown says he made $4 million a few days ago from selling off his shares off the tokens after pumping the price through his fans buying the NFT tokens. Okay, yeah, see, here's the thing. I don't know much about how NFTs work, right? I have heard, I had a homie of mine that did a podcast in New York, right? He was telling me that, you know, he wanted to do NFTs for his brand or this and that. But yeah, he says, nah, I'm from St. Louis, actually. Okay, shout out to St. Louis. Are you, by the way, Big Boy, are you a fan of Nelly or NLE Chopper or both? Which one is your favorite rapper, or do you like both or none of the above? Let me know. Unknown says a lot of celebrities like Logan Paul have done this, sadly. Yeah. You know what? And it is weird to put Khabib and Logan Paul in the same category of, you know, morality, right? Or lack of morality, which is, you know, insane to think about. But yeah, man, he says a lot of, yeah, okay, yeah, I read that part. Okay, back to MMA Joey.
Sexual predator, Conor McGregor, after Conor McGregor
Oh, so not only is he a drug addict, a cokehead, an alcoholic, he's also a rapist, according to MMA Joey. Fresh says the Haktua is Haktua Muslim, and Haktua is Haktua Muslim. The girl, no, I don't think she is, right? Or I don't know. I mean, if she converted to Islam and I didn't know about it, let me know.
Accused him of scamming his fans by selling an NFT.
Haktua looks like she would be, you know, a wife of like some Muslim convert from, you know, from either, you know, like America or the UK or something like that, or, you know, or maybe some kind of like, you know, American play toy for some Saudi billionaire or something like that. The Big Boy says, I'm not bumping Nelly by myself, but if I hear it out somewhere, you got to turn it up. LOL, I'll take or leave at Elite Chopper. Okay, so, all right, yeah, you are from St. Louis, you know what it is. He says, but she scams people. Oh, okay, so what exactly did Haktua scam people about? Was it NFTs as well? He says, I don't listen to jungle music. All right, a little bit of a racial undertone there, but okay, that's on you. He says, Maximus says, of course, we know your side. Look at your beard and name, mate. Oh, okay. Well, you know what, man? Yesterday, you got to look at the live stream yesterday, right? I looked at the idea that perhaps maybe Khabib did do this, right? Today, we're doing a live stream on the idea that maybe he didn't, right? So he says, of course I know your side. Look at your beard and name, mate. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, look, here's the thing, right? I'm the most biased yet unbiased MMA streamer you will ever meet. He says, dang, he already knows your bias. Yeah, look, I am the most biased yet unbiased MMA streamer you will ever meet. For example, if there's a Team Alpha Male fighting, because I'm from Sacramento, I've trained at Team Alpha Male, right? Obviously, if there's a fight going on in the stream, I'm going to tell you, hey, you know what? I know this guy. I've trained with this guy. I'm going to be biased towards him. Or if there's a Muslim fighter, you know, or this, that, or whatever, yes, I'm going to tell you, like, you know what? I want to see my people do good, of course. But there are times where I can be very critical of Bilal Muhammad. I can be very critical of Khabib. I can be critical of Islam. Uh, well, almost never, because to me, in my eyes, they are just, the perfect little angels that they are, right? So, Fresh Melon Juice says, sure, Bilal beat Ian. Listen, bro, look, that biasness is not predicated on on the war of civilization, okay, or the crusades or anything like that, right? That particular biasness, or not even biasness, the reason why I thought that is because actually biased towards wrestling. How about that? I just thought that the wrestling and the clinching of Bilal Muhammad, I thought was enough to win. But there you go. Uh, Big Boy says, come to STL and say that about jungle music. It won't end well for you. Ooh, well, there you go, Fresh, right? There you go, Fresh. My man over here is calling you out. He's saying you wouldn't dare go to St. Louis and say that. He says, why would I go to the jungle? Good point. Good point. Not something that you would have to do, but, always keep in mind, right? You can get away from the hood, but, the hood can always come to you. And for anybody in Sacramento that I've had to deal with in that type of matter, they know. They know that I brought to the hood in their place, even if they were living in a suburb. But, all I'm saying, Fresh, is, just be careful what you say. People are going to want to get at you, for that. And, yeah, man, that's just something you have to be cognizant of. He says, you wouldn't make it out. Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's Big Boy responding to Fresh. Maximus says, your accent is amazing. Where are you from, my man? Well, I'm glad you asked that, right? So, I was born in Libya. I was raised in New Jersey. Before I lived in New Jersey, I was living all across Asia, from like Manila to Hong Kong to, God knows where. And then, I obviously moved to New Jersey after that. I grew up in New Jersey. After I grew up in New Jersey, then I went to the Marine Corps. After that, I started living in California. And the next thing you know, here I am. Sacramento, California, represent, my man. So he says, would you go in a cage with gorillas and tigers? Very good point, right? That's a very good point. He says, I'm a civilized human. I don't mix with animals. Well, look, man, all this talk about animals or this and that, come on. Like, you're saying that out of, how do I say this? You're saying that out of bad faith, and you're saying that out of, racial connotones. I mean, basically, right? Like, look, I get what you're saying, right? You don't need to go to these places, and quite frankly, this is something that a lot of rappers have to learn not to do, right? Obviously, Nipsey Hussle got killed because, he's hanging around in his hood, and granted, it's a hood that's ran by his gang, and he's a very well-respected member of his gang, but unfortunately, not everybody in the Rollin' 60s Crip was exactly on his side, and lo and behold, what happens? He gets blasted, right? By who? By a person named Eric Holder, which is weird because Eric Holder is the same name of Obama's Attorney General, but there you have it. Big Boy says, also calling Nelly jungle music is so effing funny because he's like one of the most poppy mainstream rappers out there. Yeah, I get what you mean, Big, but him calling him that, it's not out of it's not out of the metric of trying to measure whether Nelly is mainstream or not. He's just plainly trying to race bait, right? I mean, it's a classic case of race bait. He says, here are cute animals in the jungle. He says there are cute animals in the jungle. He says, I'm going to Davis this weekend out there by Sac, going to play paintball. All right, man. Mark Haney, man. Shout out to you, my man. Hopefully, if you are ever around Sac, I can see you. I'm sure that if you see me around downtown, by the way, if you're wondering, for those of you that want to get at me, you know what I mean? I'm in downtown Sacramento a lot. So, that's certainly one place that you can, oops, where's the light here? Hold on a second here. All right, there we go. So a little right there. He says, Leandro says, happy Thanksgiving. All right, man. Hope you guys are having a beautiful day. He says, what is your take about Mike Perry's 80K tax issue? That's insane. Yeah, man. That's, that's the reality of the fight game, right? He says, how is that racist? Well, because when you say jungle animals or music or this and that, I mean, obviously we're talking about rap, which is an African-American art form, or at least dominated mostly by African Americans. So by saying that and then attaching jungle music and then animals to it, I think there is a racial connotation, behind that. So, yeah, that's a good question by Big Boy. Big Boy says, how is it not? JD says, who called Nelly's jungle music? Fresh Melon Juice did. He says, why are you offended? You are proud of the way you guys behave. What exactly do you mean by proud of the way that we behave, right? Like, you have to elaborate on that a little bit. Fresh Melon Juice did a little weird ass take, yes. He says, bro, I'm white. What are you talking about? Well, there you go, right? JD says, who the F is Fresh Melon Juice? Man, who the F is Fresh Melon Juice? He's like, the biggest, commentator in Kyrie Abu El-Kheer, spear of the world. You know what I mean? Like, he's like the biggest main character in my online world. How do you not know who Fresh Melon Juice is? But yeah, whom you've got between Ilya and Islam. I'm going with Islam on that. He says, I'm a proud Muslim. Are you really? You're not Muslim, are you? But then again, we don't know what Fresh is. One day he says he's 14 years old. The next day he says he's a CIA agent. Today he says he's Muslim. Maybe he became a Muslim convert. You never know. But yeah, he says that explains a lot. He says, who the F is Fresh Melon Juice? Okay, Fresh Melon Juice says Bryce controlled Ilya on the ground. Ah, yes. Okay, you do the math on that one at sir. Okay. Big Boy says, the dude in the chat, JD Arlo says, bro, said Bryce controlled Ilya on the ground. Yeah, he did. Bryce did pretty good against that fight, aged well, right? Considering where Ilya Tapora is at right now. He says, I'm not listening to another word. He says, laughing my ass off. Yeah. I mean, look, he didn't control him on the ground, but he did a whole lot better than what we, let's just say that aged well for Bryce Mitchell, right? No shame in losing to, a top guy like that. So Bryce got absolutely dominated to the point he nearly retired. Well, that's what I'm saying. But look, think of the context, right? That was a former world champion. Now, okay, losing to Jean Silva, we got to find out later on how that is going to age, right? I would imagine if, let's say, he does very well, I don't know, man. It's, what can you really say? He says, JD, low, haha, okay. So, all right, back to MMA Joey on this one.
NFT that a lot of people bought based on exactly what it was advertised as. You can't make this up, but of course, all the anti-Muslim, the Muslim-hating fans that jumped on it, like, man, Conor McGregor's based. Conor McGregor's based, bro. We're going to break it all down.
Yeah, well, how about that, right? This is something that I notice a lot of people, do in the Alex Jones tinfoil hat world, right? Whenever they make a take that is, somehow MAGA sounding approved of any kind, they're like, oh, that's based, bro. That's based. Maximus says, do you think Morales weighs 200 pounds on fight night? He's the biggest welterweight ever. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. He does have the size to put on. A lot of welterweights are right around that size, right? It's not that far-fetched, actually.
This video, but let's just get right to the point of the video. Because right here, I'm kind of spitting facts, boys. This is really, I could end the video right after reading this tweet. This tweet really true.
Yeah, 197. I mean, honestly, saying 197 is an understatement. I would probably say that he's way bigger than that, right? I would say right around 200 on fight night. But maybe 197 because he's still trying to put on that weight. You know how, like, after a weigh-in, you're trying to put on weight, but then you really can't. So it's like, yeah, He's kind of, so yeah, I would say 197 is right around there. Uh, but I would say he walks well over 200 for sure.
Really sums up the entire situation. Let's be honest, the main reason there are so many anti-Muslim MMA fans is because Khabib brutalized McGregor back in 2018. The casual incels were devastated watching McGregor have his soul taken that night and simply never recovered. They resorted to screaming racist, xenophobic, and Islamophobic narratives at any Muslim fighter that has any success. This is what it all comes back to. Khabib Nurmagomedov obliterated Conor McGregor, made him tap, made him quit like a little bitch.
I'm gonna have to agree with that on the side of MMA Joey. I'm gonna tell you why, right? Every fighter loses a fight. Every fighter, okay? It's a little bit different when you are in a fight that the whole world was watching. I mean, literally, the whole world was watching UFC 229. You understand? Putin was watching this fight. Okay, because, you know, he had stakes in it. It was one of his countrymen. It was, you know, basically to show the world the supremacy of Russian sports, right? So he had a stake in the game. Everybody around the world that you knew was watching that fight, right? He says nothing special tapping out McGregor. Well, at the time, it was pretty special. Didn't Nate beat McGregor before Khabib did? Yes, he did. But when he came in there and beat Nate again, we started seeing Conor in a different light. And then he went in there and beat Eddie Alvarez in the fashion that he did. Now, all of a sudden, we're thinking, wow, McGregor is invincible. He had that aura invincibility about him just right after the Eddie Alvarez fight. And we thought, hey, you know what? Maybe he learned a lot from this Nate Diaz fight. But I need you guys to understand, a fight like that, UFC 229, it is like no other, okay? If you're a regional fighter and you lose a fight, no big deal. You can come back and fight in a couple of weeks, couple of months, and then redeem yourself again. Even Bryce Mitchell, a pretty big high-profile matchup he had with John Silva. Lost that one, no big deal. Months later, he comes back and beats Saeed Nurmagomedov by decision. And by the way, out of all places in Abu Dhabi, no big deal, right? Thank you for the gift, David Rivera. Shout out to you, my man. He says, Khabib smashed people. Maximus says, Gleison Tebow was the closest to beat Khabib ever. Some people even would argue that Gleison Tebow beat Khabib. But that's because he was taking steroids at the time, and you can, you know, sort of throw that as an excuse as well. He says, I'm not surprised, motherfucker. Best post-fight speech ever. Oh, yeah, bro, listen, in 2016, Nate Diaz became a cult-like phenomenon. Now, look, I'm going to tell you the truth about Nate Diaz. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like the fact that he uses Stockton gang mannerisms when the man was never, ever in a gang in his life, right? Like, this is the God-honest truth. Like, he is using West Coast, Northern California gangster culture to basically uplift himself, right? To promote himself. But anybody who's been in Stockton, anybody who's lived in Stockton will tell you that Nate Diaz was never in a gang, right? Now, look, you're probably saying, well, why does he need to be in a gang or this and that? You know, well, look, you got to judge MMA fighters differently based on who they say they are and where they're from, right? If you're from Stockton, Mark Haney can attest to this, right? You're a Northern California guy. Mark Haney can attest to this. If you live in Stockton and you're not in a gang, you're probably a weirdo, okay? Now, that's not, that doesn't go for every city, okay? Because obviously, I grew up in the East Coast in New Jersey, okay? I was never in a gang, you know, out there, but that's normal. You know, not everybody is in a gang in the East Coast. And people who do even people who do gangster shit or do thug stuff in the East Coast are not all in gangs. 50 Cent was never in a gang. He wasn't no Blood. He wasn't no Crip. He wasn't no, what kind of gangs they got out there? Latin Kings, Nietas, you know, none of that. He wasn't any of that. Wasn't, you know, Black Gangster Disciple, wasn't a Vice Lord, none of that, right? So, for Nate Diaz to do these, little flexes that he does. You know what I mean? This is gang mannerisms. You know what I mean? So, in my opinion, Conor McGregor, this is a hot take, okay? Conor McGregor is way more gangster off the cage than Nate Diaz is. You want to know the proof of how gangster somebody is? Have you affected your enemy's life in a way where where everything is altered? For example, Conor gets court cases, right? All of a sudden, a witness's car gets blown up. Conor has to, deal with witnesses that are going to testify against him. Next thing you know, people show up at, their houses. These are common facts about Conor McGregor's, trajectory in the streets of Ireland. So if you ask me, Conor McGregor is way more gangster than Nate Diaz, because quite frankly, Conor McGregor is actually in a real gang, in a real Irish cartel. So that's that. He says, you're wrong. Conor is just an asshole out of the cage. Yeah, he's an asshole out of the cage, but guess what? He's mob affiliated. And you can't take that away from Conor. Regardless, right? You could have Conor McGregor have 10 losses in a row. It doesn't change the fact he's Irish cartel. He says, using poor people. Fresh Melon Juice says, one might say Nate is like the Mamdani AOC and Jasmine Crockett. How so? Explain that. Explain that analysis you have there. Travis said, Conor cheated 18 times against Khabib and the UFC tried to let it happen. Oh, yes. The Herb Dean, right? I mean, Herb Dean was just very subservient to Conor McGregor in that fight, right? Kamzat has a good point on Nate Diaz's gangster life. Kamzat says those guys go to school in Chechnya. We can't go to school. We have war. We don't have a voice to protest or freedom. There you go. There you go, right? I mean, just, a different level of gangsterism. I mean, obviously not to diminish the gangsterism of Stockton or anything like that. Obviously, I know a lot of people in Stockton. Heck, for all you know, I probably know the same Asian dudes that pulled a gun on Nick and Nate Diaz's face. How about that, right? Go look up the interviews where Nick and Nate Diaz talk about how Asian gangs went and pulled a gun to their faces. Now you'll understand why, why I think Nick and Nate Diaz are frauds when it comes to, being gangsters from Stockton, right? And look, oftentimes, this is also another thing that I resent about Nick and Nate Diaz using Stockton, right? Because it's not just them. These are like for the personal people that I know in real life that are from Stockton, right? Because I'm not born and raised in Stockton. I mean, really, nobody is, right? Stockton is literally like a haven for a lot of people from different places across California or across the United States, right? Nobody is really from Stockton. But if you really are from Stockton, a lot of people have this arrogant attitude, well, I'm really from Stockton or this and that, right? And the reason why they want to claim that so hard is because they want to capture the gangster aura that comes from, Stockton. But in reality, while they were living in Stockton, they were never outside. They never been, with no gang activities. They never been with any foolery or anything like that. No street activity whatsoever. But yet they want to claim that, oh, I'm from Stockton or this and that. But yet you were living in your, in your room as a computer nerd. Just being and you never outside or this and that. So how, I don't understand, right? So Nick and Nate Diaz are no different than that. Right? I'm not talking about their MMA career. Their MMA career is completely separate from what I'm talking about. In fact, I will tell you, as an MMA fan, I'm fans of their fighting. I'm fans of them fighting in MMA. But what I am not a fan of is I'm not a fan of Nick and Nate Diaz's gangster persona because they were never from a California gang to begin with. So Fresh Melon Juice says, so what? Khabib cheated on the weigh-in last fight because he couldn't make weight. Travis says, you're wrong. Conor is just an asshole out of the cage. Okay, we read that part. Conor, okay, unanswered punches to the face. Drizzy Goat says, Peyton to KO Henry Cejudo. Who you got? I'm going to have Henry Cejudo on that one. He says, Chael Sonnen beats Prime Silva, our rematch. Travis says, 32 punches unanswered and didn't stop. Fresh says, is Kamzat a gangster for running to another country instead of fighting in the war? That's a good question, man. You know what? That is a very good question. You know what? I'm going to tell you why that's a very good question, Fresh, right? Because obviously you know who I support in the world of MMA, right? And for you to ask that question and for me to really think about it, and by understanding, you know, what I think a criteria of what a gangster should be, you know, you really got me stuck on that one, right? Because although it is cowardly to run from a war from the country that you come from, by the way, Islamically, did you know that it's a sin to run from war Islamically, right? So there you have it, right? By that definition alone, you could say that Kamzat is committing a sin of some sort, right? But here's the thing. Kamzat Chimaev was a young kid when he left Chechnya. He wasn't an adult to where he had a cognizant mindset to say, hey, you know what, man, I have to stay here and fight a war. He was a minor. So I don't know if we can hold that against him, but that is a very good question nonetheless. He says, yeah, I'm curious what Kyrie thinks about that. There you go. I hope I answered that question right there. He says, Nick and Nate Diaz have the most fights outside the ring than anyone else. Yes. Okay, they don't claim gangs. They don't, but what they do is take up gang mannerisms. See the way that Nate Diaz walks or this and that? I've seen every gangster in Stockton talk like that, walk like that. I've seen every gangster in Stockton, you know, every time they want to, you know, get at you, they do this to you. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Or they'll flex at you, or, you know, they'll do this and throw gang signs at you. Now, granted, they don't throw gang signs because they know better, okay? Because they're not from a gang. But what I'm trying to tell you is that in Stockton, okay, it is so gang infested that for you to not be in a gang, you would have to be a weirdo. Okay, if you're not like by the very least affiliated, okay, you don't have to be a full-blown gang member where you have, you know, Asian boy Crip tattoos or Nathaniel tattoos or, you know, 8th Street tattoos all over you or anything like that. But affiliated, by the very least, they're not even that. They're not even affiliated, but yet they take up gang mannerisms, and that's just my biggest criticisms that I have of Nick and Nate Diaz. And he says, or valid, bro, and nobody's gonna get at you like that. Or you are valid, bro. Nobody's gonna get at you like that, Diaz bros. What do you mean by that? When you said you're valid, bro, he says careful, Miller. So he's a fake Muslim too, LOL. Okay, you're talking about Kamzat victory. No, he's not. What I was saying was that, he says they're untouchable. Or you're valid, bro, and nobody's going to get at you like that. They're untouchable. I wouldn't say they're untouchable. What I will say is that they do have people in Stockton that do back them up. But I also think a lot of them are also, you know, they're also not gang affiliated. Lefty Gunplay, this idiot, right? This idiot rapper from LA. I don't know if you guys know who he is, right? He did a song with Kendrick Lamar. Basically, you know, he's a bit of a drug addict, you know, type of rapper, right? Mexican rapper, comes from a Mexican hood. You know, he's a Sureño, you know, this and that. He went to do a song with Kendrick Lamar. You know that song, Turn Your TV Off, Turn Your TV Off. He was so unprofessional that Kendrick Lamar just decided, you know what, I'm just going to give you 4 lines to this song and you just say it, right? Because he kept messing up on his lyrics. He kept, you know, just stumbling around, was very unprofessional. He was going to give him a whole verse. Instead, this is what Lefty Gunplay got. Scary, crazy, spooky, hilarious. Scary, crazy, spooky, hilarious. Crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious. Kendrick's like, hey, Lefty Gunplay, can you spit out those 4 words? It's very simple. Let me say it slow for you, bro. Scary, crazy, spooky, hilarious. Crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious. Can you say that in those lines? And then Lefty Gunplay's there, you know, like all, you know what I mean? Like looking like Zayn, you know, 6 a.m. in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, You know, at least Zayn looks like that 6 a.m. in the morning because he's sleepy and, you know, he's running on London time while we're watching the fights of prime time in the U.S. But Lefty Gunplay is like that all day long. You know, scary, crazy, spooky, hilarious, crazy. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. Okay, so going back to Lefty Gunplay, what did he say about Nate Diaz? Before we go back to the MMA Joey video, let me show you what he said about Nate Diaz, right? Lefty Gunplay, Nate Diaz. What did he say about Lefty Gunplay? Let's see here. It says Nate Diaz. He says Nate Diaz is a norteño. Okay. Okay, right here. This is okay. This was from back in the what do you call it? The community.
Oh, I heard that one before.
Okay, so this is Lefty Gunplay in he's basically a Sureño, but he's in a Crip podcast. This is a podcast with Crips, right?
Man, yo, Nate Diaz, I heard that shit before. I got wobbled like him too. Fuck Nate Diaz. Hey, fool, you a bulldog. You know that, right? You know what?
He's not a bulldog. He says that he's a bulldog. You know who the Bulldogs are? They are a gang in Fresno. Fresno is how many miles from Stockton? Right? How many miles is Fresno from Stockton? We're talking about like, you know, a 3-hour drive, right? He's not, yeah, man, it's weird. He says they're untouchable. Travis says, I knew a Chechen family that ran to Canada and still acted like they're the toughest thing going. Well, I mean, yeah, listen, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know the context behind why they left Canada or this, that, or the other, or what was their reason behind it, but yeah.
You ever hear that?
Nah, I ain't know that.
That fool fucked me up. I want to squab away for $1 million. Fuck no. That fool worse than John McClure. Hey, Nate, hey, this your shit? Yeah. It's my shit? That's your shit. You can have it. You can have it. On the hood, we just kicking it. We just kicking it. We just kicking it.
Yeah, so look, that guy, man, Nate Diaz would absolutely beat the living shit out of that guy. And you know what? Even though that guy is a real gang member, even though Lefty Gunplay is actually certified from the hood that he comes from, Nate Diaz would still beat the living shit out of him. Nick and Nate would beat the living shit out of him, right? No doubt about that. Raja says hi from Pakistan. Shout out to you, my man. Shout out to you. Welcome. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and also come join my members only. It is only $1, a month. So come check me out. All right, back to MMA Joey.
He was the original Tom Aspinall, okay? Let me stop. Because he tapped out. He got obliterated. He got embarrassed. He got humiliated. And he had his career ended that night in 2018.
He says even Joey Diaz will beat him. There you go, right? Everybody can beat up Lefty Gunplay. Don't even get me started on his workout videos that he did with Bradley Martin. It was so embarrassing. I'm like, yo, how is this dude a Sureño? You know what I mean? But there you go, right? Like, you don't need to be the toughest guy in the world to be a gang member, right? Like, that's something I think a lot of people need to understand, right? Just because you're dangerous, because you have a gang behind you, it doesn't mean that you're the toughest guy in the world or you're the most in-shape guy in the world or this and that, right? But the way that I look at it, if you're going to live that life, you know, why not learn martial arts? Why not get yourself in shape, right? And some guys do, right? You know, I see a lot of Mexican guys who are, you know, part of Mexican gangs. They do a thing called bust down, right? They'll do like, you know, burpees, right? They'll, you know, do this and then start busting down burpees. Like, do this and then start busting down burpees, right? Like, so, you know, they stay in shape. You know, for the Crips, they also do that as well. There's this gang in Long Beach called the Insane Crips, right? I can see why they are called the Insane Crips. Every single one of them is like either buff or in shape or a little bit of both or trained martial arts, right? And I mean, listen, man, you know, if you're going to gangbang, and it's not something I would recommend anybody to do, but if you're going to do that, you know, you better have some squabbles on you, you know what I mean? So how do you do that? You got to go learn martial arts, but yeah. But you're right, MMA, Joey Diaz would beat the living hell out of Lefty Gunplay as well. You know what I mean? He would probably choke him out too. Joey Diaz does a little jiu-jitsu here and there. So yeah, man. Oh, and about Lefty Gunplay, you know, with a wrestler, right? That was embarrassing too as well, right? You know, man, listen, if I was Lefty Gunplay's manager, please tell him to stop doing workout videos until he actually works himself out to where it's actually worth looking at. But anyways.
And Conor McGregor still has that in his crawl, and a lot of Conor McGregor fans still have that in their crawl. So at any point in time,
if you live in a California zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years, listen.
Any narrative that they can warp against a Muslim fighter, and especially Khabib, they will take that opportunity to work that narrative. I'm going to break it all down in this video.
Look, so that's a very good point right there, right? That is a very good point. That is what they do. They are going to break down every narrative that they can to put Khabib down, right? Fresh Melon Juice says, while the Mexicans hit their waist in between the burpees, whites do an extra burpee. You know what? Fresh Melon Juice, the whites and the Mexicans in prison are allies. So for those of you that don't understand California gang politics, you will see an essay tatted up from head to toe, right? Face tatted up, you know, tats on their chest, gang tattoos, their barrio across it. And right across the yard, they are allies with the Aryan Brotherhood, right? I don't know, maybe because some Mexicans can pass for white, maybe because they just have this alliance against, you know, black gangs. Maybe that's, you know, what it is. He says, tits on their, okay, well.
And I know I'm called, Joey's the Muslim grifter. Joey just loves the Muslims. He grifts the Muslims. No, I like to base my analysis on facts.
Well, as a Muslim guy, I will say that no Muslim MMA streamer is going to tell you what I'm about to tell you right now. MMA Joey panders to Muslims on purpose, just as the Democratic Party does, okay? MMA Joey is literally the Democratic Party when it comes to Islamic MMA. Does that make sense? He is the Democrat Party of Islamic MMA. That is a fact. That is a fact, MMA Joey. Like, I love you, bro. Appreciate the fact that you look out for our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters and this and that. But by the end of the day, if he had an opportunity to, you know, snake Khabib, he would, right? For a video, for some views, for grifting the other side, he would do that. No doubt about it. MMA Joey, yeah, bro, he would absolutely do that. Are you kidding? MMA Joey, yeah, he would do that.
I don't just like to make up shit based on fighters I like and do not like.
I don't know about that, MMA Joey. I mean, to be fair, you kind of do, but okay.
And we're going to break it all down in this video because I'm so sick and tired of these fans. It drives me up a wall. They just make up dumb shit. They spew dumb shit. And the majority of the MMA community seems to agree with them. You have content creators out there shitting on Khabib as well with nonsensical statements. We're going to break that down in this video as well. Anyway, let's get to it. So, before we get to anything, okay, Conor McGregor deleted all his tweets, so we have to look at championship rounds, but we're going to break down every tweet, okay? We're going to get to every tweet that happened. But essentially what you have is Khabib Nurmagomedov advertised an NFT of his Papapka hat. He said, I am selling an NFT of my Papapka. Go.
Boof says, someone say burpee. Yeah, we were just basically talking about how, you know, it's a common exercise that a lot of Mexican gangs use. Most gangs use in prison, actually. So yeah.
Go buy it if you want. It's going on sale shortly, and you can use it on Telegram as an emoji, as like a profile picture, as a banner, and you can trade this NFT.
Okay, so basically it's an NFT. You can trade it. Now look, remember, I don't know much about NFTs. I'm trying to learn as much as I can just through this video alone and what exactly that means. But let's see if MMA Joey breaks down the quintessential, the quintessential reality of what all of this means.
Now, I know a lot of people are conflating this with some type of weird...
Military calls it bends and thrusts to separate from that. I don't know. Okay.
Crypto scam, which
they call it bends thrust. Okay.
going to touch on in this video as well. But what Khabib advertised and what he sold was exact. I mean, there's no... I've yet to see anyone point out to me where the actual scam was. Khabib offered a product, people bought the product, and then the Muslim-hating, Khabib-hating, Dagestani-hating fans and Conor McGregor, the civilly liable sexual assaulter and sexual predator, is saying, oh, this was a scam, with no actual logic. No actual logic. People say, Joey, you're just defending Khabib because he's Muslim. You're grifted in a Muslim fan. They will not provide anything. They will never provide anything because it does not exist. It does not exist. So one last thing I'll tell you before we get to the tweets. Essentially, this entire thing stems from Khabib posted a link where you can buy the NFT, and at the end of the sale, he deleted that link because it was no longer for sale, and he posted a new post that thanked everyone for buying the NFT who participated.
I would say it's like having another producer in the room that knows exactly what your song needs. This is co-producer, the fastest way to find samples that fit your track. It listens to your track and pulls in samples that fit the rhythm, harmony, and key automatically. No more scrolling and no more random loops that don't match the vibe. You can ask it to find specific sounds or let it listen to your track and suggest something that could be cool. Plus, you get unlimited access to every sound. So no credits, no paper download, just drag and drop. Simple. You can audition everything inside your DAW. Stay in flow, stay creative. And the sounds made by actual musicians. Analog process, crazy good. If your sample workflow feels stuck, this is gonna be the fix. Try co-producer free and let your track pick the sounds.
You think you're fine after a car accident until this happens. Most people don't realize that even accidents that seem minor can financially destroy you when the real
What did he say here? Booth says McGregor fans dislike Muslims because McGregor or because of Irish. Fresh Melindry says Irish is a Western country closest to the Muslims. That's true. That's true, right? Now, look, here's the thing. That's a very good point, Fresh. Ireland, and you know what? Khabib has even mentioned this during the Paul Hughes fight. He got on the mic and he says, guys, remember, you know, Ireland, #1 in supporting Palestine. Remember this. You know, don't forget this, you know, even though we fight with this bullshit guy. Now, what does he mean by that? What he means by that is that Ireland has done a lot of immigration policies that has welcomed many Muslims from war-torn countries, in particular Libya. By the way, a country that I was born at. And by the way, this is the reason why I'm very familiar with Irish culture, because I was born in Libya. And let me just say this, Gaddafi at the time was selling guns to the IRA to fight the British. So if I have a lot of Irish supporters out there, it's probably because they know that I'm Libyan. Either that or my uncles have probably sold straps to their uncles to fight the British. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's the reality of that. But yes, Ireland has always been an ally of the Muslims. Now, it is only within the Conor McGregor fight where Conor McGregor was elevated in the Western world, in Western pop culture, that they now use Conor McGregor as this King Lion Richard Hart crusader-like character to fight the Salahuddin character of Khabib. So think about that. You know, he says, hey, are the same. Didn't know it was closer than others. Yeah, that is. Yup. Yeah, the Ireland and you know, and the Muslim world are very close, right? Very staunch supporters of, you know, of Muslims. And in particular within the immigration and, you know, how they harbored Muslims over the years. And not only that, just normal Irish citizens themselves, they go out of their way to go to Muslim countries and, you know, go on these relief missions or, you know, or missions for food drives and things of that nature. I mean, they're very helpful towards the Muslims. And then on top of that, you know, the Irish were allies to the Ottoman Empire because of the British. So there you have it, right? And then also, there's this Irish song, Black and Tans, right? I don't know if I'm allowed to play this song, right? I don't know if this song has any copyrights, but they mentioned the Arabs in this song. Let me see here. Let me pull out the lyrics to Black and Tans. Come out with your black and tans, come out and fight you like a man. Dun 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 dun. Black and Tans. Okay, so Black and Tans most commonly refers to a group of British ex-soldiers who served as contemporary constables in the Royal Irish Constabulary. Okay, during the Irish War of Independence in 1919 and 1921, they were nicknamed for their uniforms, which mix black and dark green and khakis, and are famous for their brutality against the Irish population. The term has also referred to biracial factions within the U.S. Republican Party in the early 20th century. Okay, so that's, but Black and Tans, yes, this is, let me see the lyrics to the Black and Tans, because they mentioned the Arabs in here. He says, Maximus, Conor and Khabib fight is deeper than the fight itself. If you go down the rabbit hole is insane. Correct. Correct. Hopefully we can, you know, expose some of those. Okay, so the lyrics. Let's see here. I was born in the Dublin streets where the Royals drum did their beats. The loving English feet, they love to walk all over us. And every single night when me would come home tight, he'd invite the neighbors to come out with the chorus. He says, come out with your black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won the medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Kilishandra. Come let us hear you tell how you slandered great Parnell when you thought him and well truly persecuted. Are those sneers and jeers that you loudly let us hear when our leaders of 16 were executed? That is in reference to 1916, right? Which is crazy that Conor McGregor 100 years later won the double championship in 2016. So as the lyrics goes, come out with your black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won the medals down in Flanders. So obviously that's a reference to a war that was going on in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Kilishandra. Come tell us how you slew them old Arabs 2 by 2. Like the Zulu, they had the spears and bows and arrows. How you bravely faced one with your 16-pounder gun, and you frightened them damn natives to the marrow. So there it is, man. They even shouted out the Arabs here, right? Look at this. Look at the lyrics to this right here, right? So a little example. Let me see if I can play this song. He says, I can't hear Tyson Fury's voice. I can hear Tyson Fury's voice on the lyrics. Come out and fight me like a man. Come out and fight me. Come out with your black and tans. Come out and fight me like a man. Or maybe John Fury's voice, right? John Fury, oh my God, man. I swear, John Fury has the best crash outs, bro. He definitely has the best crash outs. So let me see if I can play that song. I mean, this is not really like a copyrighted song. So let me see if I can play this one just so you guys can. He says, Big Dog, what's your soul? Man, get the F out of here with that crazy ass talk over here, man. What you talking about over here, Willis? All right, so let's see here. This is how the song goes right here. This is gangster rap to you know, the Irish, man. They used to do drive-bys on the British on this one right here. Now you got to do the Donald Trump dance to it. You know what I mean?
I was born in the Dublin street where the noise rose to be, and the lovely English people walked all over us. And every single night when
Every time I hear this song, Phoenix asks, what is this bullshit? Play some Shabuzi. Listen, you want to know what this song is? This song is a symbol of my great-great-grand uncles selling straps to the Irish. Okay, that's what bloodline I come from. You know what I mean? I come from a bloodline of people that, you know, what do you call it? Strapped up rebels around the world. That's where I come from, bro. So, you know what I mean? This is definitely not, he says, it's like the vax, survival of the fittest, natural selection, man. There it is, right? He says, if your phone number was the same as your son, what would your social security be? Huh, okay, very interesting questions there, right? You know, asking people's social security number. How about this? This is my social security number. 18769 on you. How about that? You know, 18769 on you. You understand what that means? You understand what 187 means? And then 69 meaning I'm going to F you up. That's literally what I'm trying to tell you right now. Okay? So there it is. 18769. I'm not answering that question. What kind of a question is that? Like, who are you talking to here? You know who you're talking to, bro? You're talking to, he says, I think he's about to tell you he's going to shave your beard. Yeah, I highly doubt that. Man, okay, well, let's not entertain that if that's not what he's saying. But, you know, don't give him any ideas, because then if you give him any ideas, then I might just have to, yeah, whatever. Okay. It's so funny how other people call someone the P word, right? When you've never met me in your life, you don't know what I could do to you. You don't know what I'm capable of. But yet you come in here like, bro, listen, I'm going to be honest with you, right? You're not going to live very long. I can tell you straight up. I can tell you straight up that you're not going to live very long. You want to know why you're not going to live very long? A guy like you, okay, who talks like the way that you do, okay, it is impossible for you to live very long, unless, of course, you're a loser. So you're either not going to live very long, or you're either a loser. You want to know why? You're a loser because for you to talk like the way that you do, there is no way you have social interactions on a daily basis. Okay? There's no way you have, you know, healthy social interactions on a daily basis. At all. Okay? Let's view your channel. Okay, of course. 14 years on YouTube, 1 subscriber, no activity. Of course, you're anonymous. Yes, of course. You're anonymous. You're anonymous. Of course you're anonymous. Of course nobody knows who you are. Be a respectful, illiterate goof. Exactly, man. Yeah, man. Fire on this dude, man. Everybody on the chat, fire on this dude. You know, fire on this dude like, you know, like he's a British soldier, you know, getting blasted by the IRA. How about that, man? Yeah. You know, yeah, laughing away. Haha, it's all funny, fun and games. Haha, it's funny, you're a loser because you have to freaking hit me up on Thanksgiving because you got nobody to hang out with, so then you're just going to do that. I'm here live streaming as a Muslim because I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. What is your excuse? He says, actually retarded taking life experience, actually retard taking life experience on YouTube. I don't understand. What do you mean by that? Like, you don't even make sense. Actual retard taking life experience on YouTube. What exactly do you mean by that? Like, okay, so it's wrong for me to take my life experience and bring it to YouTube and actually make money out of it? He says, Muhammad was illiterate. Don't disrespect the Muslims, man. I mean, I don't know how those things correlate to what you're saying. Yes, it is a fact that Muhammad was illiterate. But at the same time, you're also saying don't disrespect the Muslims. Yeah, I mean, it's like talking about two different things at the same time. I don't know. Asmat is a closet gay. Take Xanax because you're too scared to come out. Maybe he's out of meth money and decided to troll everybody. That's usually how it goes. There you go. You finally got it. Okay. All right. All right. Well, there it is, man. He needs you to clarify your statement, Asmuth. Asmuth, bring me on. I'll tell you. I don't need to bring you. Do a live. What do I need to bring you for? You're a freaking loser with no following. Like, you do nothing for me. You know what I mean? Like Zane, you know, I bring Zane on because he has 14,000 subscribers. You are a nobody with no traction, no anything. How about this? Give me your your social media, not your social security, because I'm not a weirdo like you. You know, give me your social media right now so that I can, you know, decide whether I should put you on or not. Give me your social media. What is your social media handle? What is your social media handle? This guy, listen, imagine this, right? This guy is calling me a loser. I'm the one with a college degree. I'm the one with, you know, a house in California, right? You know, you can't even buy a house in a state that, you know, that has a low, what do you call it? Low prices on houses. And then you're telling me that I'm a freaking loser, and then here you are with no traction on the internet, no name, no nothing, you know, no profile pic, no handles to your social media, and then you're telling me I'm a loser, and then you're taking your time out of your day to troll me. But whatever, that's on you. He says, oh, a college degree. Yeah, fool, because I can actually have the discipline to do it. You know how much it takes to you know, to obtain a college degree? You know how much discipline that it takes? You wouldn't have the discipline to do so, which once again reminds me of why you're a loser. No college degree, no particular job, no motion going on, no nothing. You're a low value male, so shut the fuck up and go to hell. He says his Mexican side is coming out. My Mexican side? Am I Mexican? Well, or I think you mean yeah, Mexican, huh? I was wondering what you mean by that. You know, or what that's correlated to. He said fool. Oh, okay, got it. Okay, that's it. I do this all day. Most people giggle and ignore it. You went on a 5-minute rant. Yeah, because I don't like you, bro. You know, if I don't like something and I see something that I don't like, I'm going to lock on you like a target, and I'm going to make you the entire subject of my whole entire live stream right now, you freaking loser. You know what I mean? I'm gonna break you down into every bits possible. Give me your social media account right now. Give me your social media account right now so I can see how much of a loser you are, so I can see how much of a bum you are, so I could look at you and then you just break down every little thing that you got going on. Yeah, shut up. Shut up. You're a freaking loser. You're a loser. Just remember that. Remember that you're a loser. Remember tonight when you got nobody around you during Thanksgiving. Remember that. Remember this. Remember this, that you're a nobody. Remember that you are a nobody and nobody loves you. And you know what you should do? You should go and yourself. Like that. That's what you should do. Full West Coast, bitch. That's how we on it. Come out in black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Da, 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 da.
So essentially, Conor's trying.
Here, well, okay, so here's the thing, right? If I was to cry, so what? Let me ask you something. If I was gonna cry right now, so what? So what? If I was gonna cry, guess what? I'm still richer than you. I still have more money than you. I'm better than you. I'm better than you at everything. I'm better than you at anything that you could do. Always understand that. That's the gayest I've ever seen. Yeah. What the hell does even that mean? Like, you're talking about low-hanging fruit stuff that isn't even true. There's nothing true about, you know, any of that. Talking about, like, you can call anybody gay. I could call you gay. I don't even know you from a can of paint. Oh, you're actually going to cry? No, I'm not. But if I was going to cry, so what? What would you do if I cried? Imagine this, right? Imagine this. If I cried and beat your ass, how bad would that be? You know what? I want to beat you to death, okay? I want to beat you to death. I want to beat you till you're lifeless. And when I beat you till you're lifeless, that's when I'll cry, okay? I'm going to cry tears of joy. I'm going to cry like this, like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. He's dead! You're dead! You're dead! You're dead! You're dead! You're dead! Ah! You're dead. MMA Joey.
Trying to write the narrative of Khabib is deleting the evidence of his scam, even though there's not a single factor in this entire discussion that says it was a scam. So just to give you all that information. Anyway, let's jump to this. Oh wait, we can't look at Conor's Twitter because Conor has me blocked, but he also deleted all the tweets because that's...
Fresh says in the Muslim world, Islam, they always talk about the richer you are, the better you are. That's a fact. And not, you know what, man? Listen, wealth seems to come easy in the Muslim world, but it's not a focal point in our, religion. And even in the Western world, a lot of Muslims do pretty well, but it's not. I mean, there are some that brag about it. Obviously, that's just, that's just a common thing for any rich person, no matter what creed you come from. But yeah, if you whisper, it becomes real. He says, bro, is a definition of alcohol. Definition of fetal alcohol syndrome. Are you talking about me? Or are you talking about Phoenix? I know you ain't talking about me, fool. He says, Azmat, chill out. Fresh Melon Juice says, they are integrating just fine. What are you talking about? LOL. Bro, you have your social security number. He's talking about the hair and the beard, Kyrie. He's talking about the hair and the beard. I don't understand where... Does he talk about the hair or this and that or whatever, but...
What he likes to do because he's kind of a bitch. That's what he likes to do. He likes to drum up drama and then delete all his tweets.
Bro, listen. Phoenix, if I was to meet you in person, not only would I beat the living heck out of you, after I'm finished with you, I would have a bunch of dudes, come at you. He says, laughing my ass off, fetal alcohol syndrome. Yeah, who are you talking about? You know what, man? Listen. You have 5 minutes to correct your behavior. Otherwise, I'm going to time you out. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a chance right now. You tell me something real in the next comment. Double tap before you get near me. Double tap before you get near me. How about this? Double tap this, bitch. How about this? Boom. You up out of here. 24 hours, you up out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
But anyway, Championship Rounds has collected it all. This was Conor's initial post. There is no way good guy Khabib used his late father's name as well as Dagestani culture.
Yo, listen. MMA Guru has no skills in MMA whatsoever. MMA Guru, you know what MMA Guru reminds me of? He reminds me of these 6'8" black dudes. You want to know why? You ever seen a 6'8" black dude that doesn't play in the NBA? Imagine you're 6'8", you're black, and you don't play in the NBA. Like, imagine what a waste of life you are. MMA Guru is the size of a rugby player, the size of an NFL player, and yet is completely unathletic, completely unassuming, completely just pathetic physically. Okay, that's the reality of MMA Guru, right? And then he cried on DJ's podcast saying, oh, I hated life. I used to hate life before I was an MMA streamer. Guess what, boys? I do this for fun. Yes, do I do this because I want fame? Yeah, I want fame, but at the same time, I do this because I don't need to. MMA Guru does this because he needs to. I do this because I need fame. He does it because he needs money. And that's just the bottom line about it. I'm here to be as famous as humanly possible, and he's here because he is a broke joke of a man, of a thing, and, really accomplished nothing in his life. He says all Muslims want fame. It's a fact. No, actually they don't. look, here's the thing, right? I never wanted fame when I was in the Marine Corps, right? You know, that's not a job that you necessarily, you know, get into, you know, having fame with. You know, I never I never wanted fame when, you know, I was out in the streets, you know, or anything like that, because, you know, if you're a street guy and you do stuff like that, that's just not what you want. You don't want attention to yourself, unless, of course, you're a rapper or you're doing it for, you know, a lucrative act of some sort, right? But yeah, that's the reality of the situation. Now, the reason why I want fame is because I think that, in my humble opinion, I think that I think that I'm the most. I don't want to say I'm the best MMA streamer, because being the best MMA streamer, you know, means a whole wide range of things. But what I will say is that I am the most articulate MMA streamer, right? I think my command of the English language is so superior to most MMA streamers and journalists. And the only one that I could say that is probably superior to me in that regard, believe it or not, is Luke Thomas. In fact, I've modeled a lot of my live streams to be that similar to Luke Thomas, right? Being very interactive with fans, right? Talking to the people in the chats, answering questions, opening up questions, raising intelligent conversations, right? So, Gay, or is that in reference to Luke Thomas, Fresh Melon Juice? And if so, why do you find him gay?
To scam his fans and fire sell a bunch of digital NFTs online, and then delete all of the content after they were sold, leaving his fans robbed of their money. There is no way a good guy do this. How do I even unpack that? First off, do you ever notice a lot of the times they really have nothing on these Dagestani guys? So it's always a way that they try to attack their culture. They try to attack their religion. In this case, he's trying to attack Khabib's late father by saying it's a scam because he advertised where to buy.
And also, here's another thing you need to understand, right? Conor McGregor did not necessarily have an extensive research project on this particular matter. He just heard that, you know, people were scammed by Khabib and this, that, and the other, and then doesn't really elaborate much behind it after that.
It. And then when he was done, he deleted that link and posted a link saying thank you to everyone who did participate and did buy it. I'm still not quite sure how that's a scam, but we'll continue. We'll continue. Khabib responded and already humiliated him here, and this is where a lot of people are criticizing Khabib, but I'll explain why I believe Khabib said what he did. You absolute liar. You will always try to darken my name after you got destroyed that night, but you will never achieve that. Yes, good guys don't do that.
Okay, so Khabib is right about that. He absolutely destroyed him that night to the point where it was a completely different type of fight. Let me explain why. Conor McGregor was fighting a fight where the whole world was watching, okay? You want to know why a lot of rappers, a lot of influencers, and a lot of actors are not willing to get into the cage or get into a fight or a sanctioned fight, not street fight, but a sanctioned fight? Because it will absolutely ruin the notion of their reality or the notion of their heroism to the world, right? They would look absolutely bad. There was this Blood and Crip, you know, social media influencer. One was named, he's a YouTuber by the name of Nina Boy, right? He comes from a Crip gang, and then Boscow, he comes from a Blood gang. Let me tell you how this fight went. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull up this fight right here. Okay, Boscow versus Nina Boy. You want to know what this fight looked like off top? I'm going to tell you right now. It looked like the Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis fight. This is what it looked like right here, right? Okay, wait. This is kind of the highlights. Let me show you the full fight, just so you can kind of get a context of what was going on here, okay? So basically,
0-0 at the end of the third round. First, come on, man.
look at this. A lot of hesitation from both of them, right?
Get in there. Throw that jab. Throw that jab. Throw that jab. If the boy had his hat off, we was gonna have us a fight. Throw that jab. Oh, he trying to take his hat off with that one. Slip him in there. Come on, let's go. Slip him in there. Let's go. There we go. There we go.
Okay, so listen. that whole entire fight, that was literally the most exciting part of the fight. Okay? Now, why is it that they did not go for broke in the whole entire fight? Well, because they're afraid to look bad. Okay? These are two social media influencers, right? Never mind the fact that they are, you know, from both, you know, different blood and Crip sets, right? They are social media influencers by the end of the day, and any wrong move could make them look bad. So they were in a fight that was basically being watched by everybody because they know that these two guys are not in there fighting often. And as a result, the fight looked as horrible as it did. Now, going back to Conor McGregor, everybody was watching that fight. The fact that they watched that fight, okay, really affected Conor McGregor because, like, again, like as I said, it's not like Jim Miller losing a fight at the Apex card, right, where he can come back days later and just, you know, go do it again or do it again in the next couple of months and then get a win and then people will forget about that. This fight affected Conor McGregor in a very negative way. So, all right, let's get back to Conor McGregor and Khabib here.
This is 100% facts. That's why I started the video with it. Conor is salty that Khabib essentially ended his career in 2018 and humiliated him in front of all the fans at UFC 229.
Oh, Marty said he's stealing your takes. Must have watched your video last night, huh? You're talking about MMA, Joey. You know what? We may have different takes on this though. He says this dude sounds like Ian. Who? Are you talking about? Are you talking about Joey?
And that's really where all this bitterness and pettiness comes from for Conor McGregor, because his life has been in a downward spiral since then, and he blames it all on Khabib. He blames where his career is at because of Khabib. And Conor's legacy and his name is so in the mud, is so in the dirt, is so in the porta potty, that he's trying to drag Khabib down with him. And that this is his attempt at doing it. And Khabib is smart enough to know. Now, the second part of the tweet. They don't create exclusive digital gifts with real-time value that you can share with your friends and family. Gifts in the shape...
Don't have any hobbies? That's probably because you're a business owner and you barely have time to breathe. If you use Patriot software, you'll save time and maybe pick up a hobby again.
I hate how these commercials are so personalized, like as if they know what you are up to. But by the way, I do have a hobby. Thank you very much. Okay, and it's called MMA streaming and MMA period.
Popka hat that symbolize tradition and culture of Dagestan people. Traditions and cultures that slowly walking over this world, whether you like it or not. Gifts that you find exclusively on Telegram.
That is interesting, right? He says something about how this influence is raising all over the world. And what he's talking about is the growth of Islam worldwide, right? Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. And look, the world that we are living in right now, let me explain something to you, right? I hated the 9/11 era. I really hated it. I absolutely hated it. And then on top of that, I felt like... I don't know, man. You know, I'll put it like this, right? When I was in basic training, I felt like I got, you know, a huge discrimination, right? Because, you know, I was like, well, wait a minute. You know, I feel like I'm pretty squared away, you know, this and that. So I was like, why are the drill instructors, you know, picking on me? And then by the end of it all, I started to realize that, hey, you know what? What these drill instructors told me in the end was, look, you know, you're an Arab American, right? You're Muslim. Well, no, I wasn't Muslim at the time, but, you know, you're Arab American. You know, they're going to get at you a whole lot harder, you know, over there, overseas, right? So we had to be hard on you. So I was like, okay, I get it. But still, you know, maybe that's mild discrimination or this and that, or maybe it wasn't discrimination at all. It was like tough love by, you know, your fellow Marines. But at the same time, there are people during the 9/11 era that experience a certain level of racism, right? And quite frankly, I don't want to go back to that world. Now, the world that we live in right now, Muslims, damn near run everything, at least within the world of the fight world, right? Maybe even the world of politics as well, because look at America's biggest allies right now. It is Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Believe it or not, it's not Great Britain. Well, Great Britain will always be there, right? Because, they're part of the Five Eyes, right? The Five Eyes are basically America, England, Australia. Wait, America, England, Australia, New Zealand, and what was the other one? Canada. Why do we have something in common with these Five Eyes? Well, they all speak English, right? So in a way, I guess you could say that they all share our values, or they somehow, share some similar cultures with us. Fresh says, are all Marines GAY or only 80%? You know what? It's funny that you asked that. There's this movie on Netflix called Boots, right? It takes place in the 1990s, just right before the Gulf War popped off. And what happened? What happened was that they had, they had GAY Marines up in there. And it's just, man, it's just absolute woke BS to the max, right? They just make Marines look GAY. And what's weird is that this was a show that was taking place in the 90s, or at least the setting of this fictional setting, right? Took place in the 90s, and it's like, man, that was the hardest era to ever be in as a U.S. Marine, right? In terms of, the don't ask, don't tell policy. Nowadays, Obama's military, that he sort of constructed under his administration is GAY to the max, right? But any regard.
Greatest messaging platform on the world. Now, a lot of people are criticizing the second half of this message, and I actually don't think there's anything to criticize there. I understand that it reads a bit cringe, but this entire NFT sale that Khabib did was in partnership with Telegram. So essentially, you have Conor McGregor shitting all over Khabib, but dragging down Telegram with it. And
okay, so pay attention to that detail right there. I'm going to rewind that 20 seconds behind once again, okay? Pay attention to this particular detail.
Gifts that you find exclusively on Telegram, greatest messaging platform on the world. Now, a lot of people are criticizing the second half of this message, and I actually don't think there's anything to criticize there. I understand that it reads a bit cringe, but this entire NFT sale that Khabib did was in partnership with Telegram. So essentially, you have Conor McGregor shitting all over Khabib, but dragging down Telegram with it. And Telegram's a big company, I'm sure they'll be fine. But this is Khabib's way of saying, look, I'm going to tweet something out, I'm going to defend you, I'm going to make it all look better, and this tweet's going to get a lot of attention as well, rather than just let Conor dog essentially the sponsorship that Khabib had with no real defense from Khabib as Conor tries to bash the brand that he worked with. I understand it sounds kind of cringe and it sounds kind of scripted.
So there you go, right? There's a company involved here that is very similar to who Conor McGregor has worked for, and he's trying to get around bashing them, right? Because he wants to blame this all in Khabib. Now, Telegram is a company that he has worked with previously, according to what MMA Joey is saying here. And what did he do? He went around it. Instead of blaming that company, okay, that may have caused this or may have caused the confusion, he goes right after Khabib because it's low-hanging fruit. And not only that, I think that it also correlates, and this is the reason why I titled the live stream Islam versus Ian Garry, because guess what? I think that Conor McGregor saw Ian Garry on the press conference the other day proclaiming that, hey, you know what, we need to reignite this beef again. Ireland versus Dagestan, right? He wants to basically, he called himself the protege of Conor McGregor. I'm like, how? You don't even train in Ireland. And granted, that's actually better, right? You training around the world, training with Brazilians, training with Americans, training with British teams, training with, sometimes even Russians, right? Depending on who or where Ian Garry is at. But he does not train in Ireland, and Conor doesn't really train anywhere else other than Ireland. So the idea that he is, Conor McGregor's protege, I wouldn't say all of that, right? You can't be a protege of Conor McGregor unless John Kavanagh is your coach, or unless Conor McGregor is involved in your career in some kind of way. I think there's a little bit independence on the part of Ian Garry that is separate from Conor McGregor. But for the convenience of having a Dagestan versus Ireland type of matchup, you know, he goes and spews that in the press conference to where he says, yeah, you know what we need to do? We need to have a Dagestan versus Ireland rivalry reignited again, right? So, and then he attaches Conor McGregor's name to it. So that's, you know, that's really how it goes. So, yeah. You know, and then Conor McGregor sees this and he's like, you know what, maybe this is a great opportunity to promote Ian Garry, or somehow lobby him to get a title shot against him, right? So, a title shot against Islam Makhachev. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of motivational, multiple motivational factors of why Conor is doing and saying what he's saying.
Somebody probably wrote it for him. But if this is your criticism, that he's saying, oh, this was something you can find exclusively on Telegram, give me a break. I mean, this is all you have on these guys. I mean, it's just an absolute joke. Well, anyway, Conor responded and said, apologize this instant for using your late father's name to sell those quote-unquote gifts that cost your fans so much money. Also, to sell something means it's not a gift, you low IQ. I forgot how to pronounce this word. That is the direct opposite of what gift means. Duh, dumbass, ha, ha, ha. Scamming on your dead daddy's name. Shame. This guy is a complete piece of shit.
And I agree. Conor is that. I mean, you know, like, I don't understand how, you know, you can't see that any other way. You know what I mean? Using somebody's dead father as some kind of way to, you know, make your point over a rivalry. But Fresh says 2023 NFTs launched, but value crashed 90%. Khabib distanced himself. 2023 branded a scammer for promoting volatile tokens to earn fees. Tokens lost value. 2024 memo coin endorsement. Shady pump and dump. 2025 multi-bank MBG token partnership. Token lost 50% of value post-launch. Wow. Okay, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. No shame, I guess. Well, that's one side of the story, right? Yeah, now I see why Marty was saying yesterday, just right before I left, hey, Fresh just got here, you need to stay. This would have been perfect, because obviously the theme yesterday was, you know, perhaps maybe Khabib did it, right? That was the theme yesterday. Today the theme is, you know, something different, obviously. Today's theme is, you know, Conor McGregor is a liar. Conor McGregor is just using, you know, the aspect of his rivalry against him to somehow,
To consistently bring up someone's dead father because he whooped you over 7 years ago is an absolute disgrace. It really is. He's like,
yeah, look, I'd have to agree with MMA Joey on that one, right? Like, it's one thing if you want to call out the fact that he's, you know, using scams or this and that. Okay, that's one thing, but then to bring up his dad in the middle of it, yeah, you know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
Cost your fans so much money. People willingly bought these NFTs. You can sit back.
Okay, so people willingly bought them, right? It also an important factor to bring up.
Back and say, a digital papapka, that's fucking stupid. But it's not your money. People had the free will. They were not bamboozled. They were not tricked. And there's no evidence. There's not a single shred of evidence to prove that Khabib intentionally deceived anyone or deceived anyone, period.
I'm going to have to agree with that. There is no proof of that whatsoever. I have to agree with MMA Joey on that one.
Let me make that very clear. There is zero evidence that anyone who bought this NFT was deceived. So how in any way, shape, or form is this a scam? Makes absolutely no sense. Well, anyway.
So is Mad Honey legal? Just take a little teaspoon. Just get in there.
I will take a little seat. You go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Khabib responded and said, my count is 56 former drug addicts at my rehabilitation center in Dagestan that I treated. Come to Dagestan, act Notorious MMA. They'll take care of you here. Mexico didn't help you as far as I can see. Because obviously Conor's still on drugs. Conor said, I went to Mexico, I did this hallucination thing, and I found God and I met Jesus. I mean, I'm waiting for the next accusation to come out. That's where Conor's entire life is completely down the drain. And you have fans acting like it's not because Conor has money. These people think money is everything, and it's simply not. And Khabib really hit him where it hurts here because...
Look, this is true, man. A lot of people do think money is everything, right? They really do. And to a certain extent, you know what, I don't ascribe to that. Look, I look at money as a means of resource, right? But then when people start getting more money, then they start realizing, like, okay, maybe this is the end-all, be-all of things, and yeah, and that's that. So, I don't know, man. You know, it's a very weird way of looking at life.
Conor he's kind of an embarrassment to his family. And I do believe Conor has a disease, but I do also believe that Conor is a complete piece of shit. And Khabib should say this. And Khabib did open some drug rehabilitation centers in Dagestan with some of that money that he's making off of doing some of these promotions. And Conor responds and says, and who will I be meeting there? Because it won't be you. You can't scam me with your lies, you tax-dodging scammer on the run. Your poor family, I pray. I pray for your constant lies. I pray while you lie. You should just be honest because Allah knows all. This is such... This just...
So, I've seen a lot of people sort of get mad that Conor McGregor brought up Allah, right? I mean, this is really no different than him saying, you know, God sees all, right? But obviously he's just saying it in, you know, in the Arabic context of things. Look, I really get annoyed when people make a big deal out of saying Allah or God, right? Oh, you know, you can't say Allah because, you know, this is America and we're a Christian country. Well, how did Jesus say Allah? You know how he said in Aramaic? He says Allahi. Sounds to me like Jesus Christ is a Middle Eastern man. I don't know.
This truly shows where Conor McGregor and a lot of these fans lie, because you notice it's always some underlying message about how you're an embarrassment to your religion. It's always something to degrade the religion. It's always something to degrade where they're from. Like,
there you go, just like what you guys do with Zayn. You know, this is a classic example of what you guys do with Zayn. Okay? Like, you know, obviously, you know, well, look, like I said, to be fair, as I told you guys, you know, you can only be mad at what it is that you are not willing to put out. Like, for example, you know, if you're saying things about me that are not true and things that I never said or things that I never even signed off on, well, you know, you have no right to, you know, say that, right? You know what I mean? Like, but if you hear me say, well, you're this, that, and the other because you said you are, you know, you what do you call it? You speed while you're driving, you know, or this, and I can't get mad at that because I've told you guys that I've done that. I can't get mad at you for saying, well, you know, you're a violent person because, you know, because you said X, Y, and Z. Well, the truth is I am a violent person, and if you get in my way in any kind of capacity, you know, I will hurt you, you know, with with absolutely no indications of warning whatsoever. You know what I mean? Like, that's, like, if you say that about me, okay, I'm not going to get mad at that because I'm telling you that that's what I am. He says, you eat food, Kyrie. What do you mean by that? Well, okay, that's another thing, right? You know, I can't get mad at you for saying that, you know, okay, well, you know, now you make jokes about if I go walk up out of here, you know, oh, well, he's going to go get food again. Well, you know, that's not always the case, but you saying that stems from the fact that I've actually done that on live stream. Okay, so by you saying that, you know, you have the right to say that because, you know, that is, so that what I'm saying is that what people are presenting, okay, you can't be mad at if they say it back, right? Like if you're going to tell people your personal life or your personal struggles, oh, you know, I have an addiction in alcohol. Well, of course people are going to use that against you. If you tell people that you are a Muslim, in this case, then people are going to want to test how Muslim you actually are, and then any wrongdoing that you do or any mishaps is going to be somehow highlighted as what McGregor is, doing here, right? But at the same time, sort of doing it as a way to diss him while also discrediting his Islamic practices. Fresh Melon Juice says, I'm stating facts. Yeah, there you go, right? They're stating facts, and then they're stating things just to make that other person look bad.
I believe this is an Abu Dhabi flag and like a running man, like you ran to Abu Dhabi or some shit like that. Because it always has to be, they don't have anything else. Khabib's not out graping up a storm. Conor is.
Yeah, that's a very good point, right? Like, first of all, why is it wrong for Khabib to decide to live in Dubai, that rather than living in Dagestan if, if they're going to tax, if the Russian government is going to tax him? I mean, think about it. Think about how much of a Republican attitude that is, right? Most rich Republicans do that. In fact, one of Conor McGregor's homeboys, Daniel Kinahan, who, by the way, is wanted by the American government, okay, he lives in Dubai. Okay, he ran to Dubai. Why? Because the Irish government wants to go after him. So, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know why Conor, goes out of his way to do that, but I get it. Look, do I go and call people broke and poor and, this, that, and the other? Have I called people that? Yes. But here's the reality. Do you not think that I have homies that are poor, that are, living in destitute situations? Yes. But of course, I'm not going to diss them for that. But if you're an enemy of mine and you're a brokey, I'm certainly going to bring that out because it's low-hanging fruit and I want to win the argument. So that is basically what I'm trying to make you understand with that statement alone.
Khabib's not out cheating on his wife who's 9 months pregnant. Conor is. So instead, Conor has to say, you embarrassed your late father by selling an NFT and advertising it accurately, and some fans choosing to buy it, and you made money off of it. And then you ended the auction afterwards. It's just, it really is insane to me. And I think one of the main problems is people are conflating this with not an NFT scam, with a crypto scam, which I think is a whole other topic. But essentially in the crypto scams, you have someone start a crypto coin. They own the large percentage of them. They have celebrities hype them up on social media. They've released the other portion of them. All the fans buy it, driving up the price. And then the celebrity then rug pulls and sells their portions, making the price just absolutely plummet. Meanwhile, they got out with a...
Fresh Melon Juice says, what about all the people who create services that are essential? Should be allowed to skip taxes, or should they pay and serve Khabib who doesn't pay? That's a good question, bro. Look, I like the UAE system, right? Because there's an Islamic derivative behind it. They don't tax anybody, okay? Now, granted, if you're a foreigner or if you're a non-Muslim, maybe they'll tax you, but that's one thing, right? But if you are a Muslim yourself and you're living in these countries and, they decide that they don't want to tax you, well, then that's great, right? I mean, why not take that opportunity? But for the government to choose to tax you and then for a person to choose to alleviate themselves away from those taxes, I don't think should be a fault to anybody, and it should not be a bear of responsibility like, hey, you're not paying your taxes, so therefore you're not helping the poor and the destitute. Well, I mean, I'm sure Khabib helps the poor and the destitute in his own way, but not in a way to fund the government of Russia, which I quite frankly don't blame him. By the way, I need you guys to understand something, right? I want you to understand a couple of things about Khabib. He told Islam that he doesn't want him to fight at the White House. You know that? Khabib does not want Islam to fight at the White House. Now, why is that? Well, the reason why he doesn't want him to fight at the White House is because there's a lot of political implications behind it. I really mean that. There's a lot of political implications behind why he does not want him to fight at the White House. Okay? And those political implications deal with the fact that America is friends with Israel. And not only is America friends with Israel, America has supported the genocide of Muslims around the world. And let's not forget the Iraq War. Everybody talks about Israel, right? How Israel is, you know, the big bad wolf of the Middle East. Well, what about America? Well, you can argue that America sort of was propelled by Israel to do these things. I mean, I don't know how accurate that is, but you can certainly make that assumption. But make no mistake, the Muslim world is still very much angry with the fact that America has invaded Iraq, has invaded Afghanistan, and has invaded Yemen, or has facilitated Yemen through proxies of some kind of way, right? That is the reality of the situation. Khabib has his reasons why he does not want Islam Makhachev to fight at the White House. Now, you're probably wondering, well, didn't Khabib meet Donald Trump, and didn't he have a great conversation with him? What did Donald Trump say about Khabib exactly? Right? He said something very interesting about Khabib. Let me see if I can pull that up right here. While I read these comments, David Rivera says, I'm back. Welcome back, my man. Fresh Melon Juice says, Serious F. Apparently not more than Arabs. I don't know what that is in reference to. He redacted his statement on that one. But okay, let's hear what Donald Trump had to say about Khabib. Let's hear what he had to say about Khabib here. This was, I believe, on a Joe Rogan podcast that he had mentioned this, or okay, right here.
You know, I don't know. I got a little girl. I gotta see. I think.
Oh, okay. You know what? This is during Cage Side. Look, this is what he said to Donald Trump during Cage Side right here. So Khabib tells Trump tells Khabib he will stop the war in Gaza. We are going to stop it. This was right before Donald Trump got reelected as president again.
Well, is it? You know, I don't know. I got a little girl. I gotta see. I think this could be it. Well, is it? You know,
Okay, so that was Dustin Poirier in the background, obviously, after a post-fight win. So, okay. All right, this is what Donald Trump had to say about Khabib. So there it is. Very smart guy. Very interesting guy. Okay, so he takes a liking to Trump. That's fine. I need you guys to understand something within the minds of a Muslim, okay? We don't look at a government the way that we look at the people. We look at the people as innocent. Donald Trump, even though he is the government, okay, even though he is the establishment, and some on the MAGA side will argue that, well, he is the most non-establishment type of politician ever. The one thing you got to understand about Donald Trump is that, yes, he is a bit of a rogue, but he is not the overall reflection of America's history. You understand? He is not he did not cause the wars in the Middle East, although I will say that Trump was probably responsible for bombing innocent Muslims at some point of his political career, at some point of being the commander-in-chief and being that guy who holds the red button of doom to whatever place he wants to bomb on any God-given day. But overall, when you're talking about the White House fight, you're talking about a symbol of American hegemony around the world, right? You're talking about the American sense of supremacy towards the world. And I don't think Khabib wants Islam to be a part of that. Now, Islam seems to be very adamant in wanting to fight at the White House. Well, why is that? Well, him and Khabib are two different people, but at the same time, he also listens to everything that Khabib says. So if Khabib says that I don't want you to fight at the White House, he's not going to fight at the White House. He listens to Khabib because even though he is a double champion, by the end of the day, Khabib is still the commander-in-chief of Team Eagle in the not only in the training room, but also the commander-in-chief of their team when it comes to prayers. If you ever notice, Khabib leads most of the prayers, and that's not by accident. It's because he knows the Quran, memorizes the Quran more than anybody else in the team, and that is the reason why he is not only world champion, but that is also the reason why they have him lead the prayers as a result of that. So what I'm trying to say is that Islam Makhachev has a great chance of not fighting at the White House because of political reasons. And I just explained to you the political reasons and the Muslim sentiments that they have for the American government, not the American people. And I need you to understand that, right? When I was in Egypt and I visited Egypt, one of the most common things that I would hear from people when they say, oh, you are from America? America, wahish, America. You know what wahish means? Means bad, no good, right? Or evil or some sort, right? That's how they see America. But when they say that, they are not talking about me as an American, and in particular an American who's Muslim. They are not talking about regular Americans or just, you know, regular Joes or regular Marty Millers of America. They are literally talking about the U.S. government. So when Khabib says that he doesn't want Islam Makhachev to fight at the White House, this is the reason why. This is the overall sentiment of Muslims around the world. Now, you got to remember, the world that we live in right now, very much different from the 9/11 era. During the 9/11 era, right, most Arabs, Muslims, and people of that persuasion were heavily discriminated. And based on paranoia, based on trauma that had happened in 9/11, but now we live in a world where Turki al-Sheikh, okay, a Saudi royal deputy, is now running boxing. And now Mohammed bin Salman, his boss, his childhood friend that he grew up with, a guy that he served with in, well, I guess in the apparatus of military intelligence with, you know, the Saudis' intelligence service, and the guy that he grew up with watching hours and hours of WWE wrestling and boxing and MMA, is now the head of that country. Even though his father, who's the king, is still alive, Mohammed bin Salman is really running everything. So he goes from being the minister of defense to literally being the head of state, right? While still holding on to those positions as well. Nonetheless, very influential. They have Trump in their back pocket. They're doing deals around the world. They are holding leverage and power over Russia and America. So it's safe to say that not only are the Saudis running boxing, MMA, and now WWE, but the majority of the people that are dominating MMA are now Muslims, and guess what? We now live in a world where it's cool to be Muslim. The one thing you got to understand, though, it doesn't change the fact that the overall sentiments that Muslims have is still there. And if you're wondering why Islam Makhachev is not going to fight at the White House, this is why. Now, what about Ilia Topuria, right? He comes into this whole entire mix as well, right? They have talks of Garry possibly fighting Islam Makhachev. Okay, well, here's the thing about it, right? Ilia Topuria is looking to drop his belt. He doesn't want to fight Paddy Pimblett in January. He doesn't want to fight Justin Gaethje. Maybe they're going to vacate the belt, have Ilia Topuria move up to fight at 170, fight against Islam, and nowhere near will that fight be landing at the White House. Not whatsoever. Maybe just right before the White House, maybe a May card, maybe an April card, somewhere after Ramadan. But make no mistake, there is a great chance that Islam Makhachev is not going to fight at the White House. Now, him and Khabib are the opposite. As I've told you, Khabib is the commander-in-chief of that team. Everybody does what he says. But why did Islam even say or initiate that he said he wanted to fight at the White House? Well, all politics aside, there's a prestige that comes with that. And with that prestige, obviously, there is glory and sports glory behind that. But by the end of the day, yes, they go for sports glory like anybody else. Yes, they go for greatness like everybody else. But by the end of the day, understand this. Khabib is a Muslim through and through. And what I mean by being a Muslim through and through is that he is going to hold the sentiments of Muslims around the world, which means that Islam Makhachev will not fight at the White House. Okay, I had to pause there for just a little bit longer. The reason why I had to pause there for just a little bit longer, I'm actually going to cut that part out and turn it into a video. So that video portion is going to be why Islam Makhachev will not fight at the White House. Okay, that's going to be the video for that one. So I'm probably going to release it today. Yeah, you know, a good little Thanksgiving video to put out today. You know, obviously. So, yeah. Fresh Melon Juice says they are the same. Khabib didn't need to fight Conor, as everyone knew Conor was finished before the fight. Conor had already made his money. Khabib fought Conor for money. He set his principles aside. Okay, let me read that again. They are the same. Khabib didn't need to fight Conor, as everyone knew Conor was finished before the fight. Conor had already made his money. Khabib fought Conor for money. He set principles aside. Is it principles or beef, right? Because it's not like Conor McGregor at the time was a Jake Paul character or something like that, right? He was a legit fighter. He was the last linear champion before Khabib had to win it against El-Kheer because Conor McGregor was too busy, you know, getting ready for Floyd. And after that Floyd fight, he was too busy with the money that Floyd gave him. David Rivera says, cool. Suns and Stars says, hi, how are you? First time you are here, shout out to you. Welcome to the page. So if you have beef, you don't make money with the one you hate. But how else was he going to fight him? You see what I'm saying? How else? Look, I want you to think of it like this, right? That whole entire fight was a military strategy by Khabib. Let me explain what I mean. And I'm talking about military strategy outside of the cage. How else are you going to get to Dylan Dennis if you guys are not in the same arena? How else are you going to get to John Kavanaugh if you're not in the same arena? How else are you going to get to Conor McGregor if you don't surround him inside the cage and basically, yeah, you know, beat him up the way that he did? He got punched in the back of the head, in the side of the head, you know, which I think really affected him, you know, in a negative way. And, you know, he got his licks in there too. He hit him. But yeah, all of that was a military strategy, my man. You know, so yes, I understand you don't want to give money to people that you hate. It's kind of like this guy from No Jumper, right? What's his name? 4Extra, right? They were trying to set him up with a fight. He says, I don't want to fight a guy like that. I want to fight somebody like Jake Paul, a guy who's never boxed before in his life, you know, a social media gang influencer. Now all of a sudden he wants to fight Jake Paul, right? Well, that's what he was going for. He said to the guy, listen, man, I'll fight you out in the streets, but when it comes to this boxing shit, you know, I want people like Jake Paul. I want people with names. He wanted to fight Cedric Dumas, by the way, if you guys remember. So Fresh says, that's BS. Khabib always wanted Conor. DC told him from the beginning that Conor is the money fight. You know what? You're right, man. You're right. I can see that. I can see that behind the scenes. He says, hey, you know, hey, Khabib, you know what? This is what you got to do, man. You know what? Get at Conor, man. You know, get at him. Tell him, you know, you will smash him, brother. Tell him you'll do this and that. You know, and the next thing you know, him and Artem all of a sudden start having beef. Next thing you know, they corner Artem. And then they beat the living, I mean, they didn't beat the living heck out of him, but obviously that same weekend, Conor packed in, you know, a group of Irish thugs in his, you know, in his airplane. And then next thing you know, they you know, they hit New York and, you know, do the damn thing that they do. So, I mean, yeah. I could see, look, I'm going to be honest with you, right? Can I be honest? I'm going to be very honest. I think Khabib started this beef with Conor McGregor. You're never going to hear another Muslim MMA streamer say that, but I'm going to say it. He started the beef with Conor, but it's not nefarious. He wanted the beef with Conor due to the fact that Conor was a double champion, the fact that Conor McGregor had the name, and the fact that Conor McGregor had the belt. Okay? It's maybe if Conor stayed at 145, he would have never had this rivalry with Khabib, right? It would have never existed. But it did. It happened. And as a result of that, you know, he had to fight him under those circumstances and had to try to get a fight out of him. Now, the way that Conor reacted, I think, is what ultimately made him the villain. I think it was Khabib that turned Conor McGregor into a villain. Fresh Melon Juice says Khabib was talking shit about Conor before Conor beat Aldo. Conor didn't start. I agree. He says, I will be back soon. I have to go to the store. Shout out to you, David. Don't forget to like and subscribe, my man. And also tell your friends to tell a friend so that, yeah, we can make this the biggest platform in the world of MMA. By the way, a world of MMA that is in need of objectivity more than anything, more than ever. So, all right, back to MMA Joey.
Now, we can have a discussion about whether or not that is a scam, but at this point, I got to be honest, and maybe this is a bit of a hot take. If you're buying a celebrity's crypto,
Unleash the power.
All right, that got a little pause there. If you're buying a celebrity's crypto, what is it, MMA Joey?
it's at this point, it's to be expected. I don't understand why are we even calling this a scam anymore. Now, that is far more of a scam than what Khabib did here. But if you want to go back to some of the crypto incidents that Khabib was related in, I guess you should talk about what Conor did. Because if we're conflating the two things, selling an NFT exactly as advertised, and we're conflating that with a crypto scam, let's not forget. Okay? Because Conor, and we're not going to go through all this, Conor hyped up a crypto coin, and then he rug pulled that crypto coin. So he did exactly...
Look, man, I'm not big into crypto. I really don't get it. I think most dudes that are into crypto are dudes that like live with other dudes in their mid-30s and then say, oh, if I could just, you know, somehow invest in this and invest in that, next thing you know, my thing is going to go up, then it's going down, and then next thing you know, I can't pay rent, and the next thing you know, I have to come up with this much, and then next thing you know, if I make deal with this, it goes like, it's just a whole bunch of wide world of mess, man. Why don't you guys just go and hustle and do it the old school way? I just don't understand all this crypto stuff, but I get it. Let me tell you where crypto comes from, right? Back in the old days of ancient Arabia, what they used to do was basically hide people's money, right? And they would have vouchers saying that, hey, you know what, this is how much he has, and we're holding it in this bank. So, you know, basically one of the first, you know, aspects of credit cards and what have you, right? So I get it. It's like a way of hiding money from the establishment or this, that, and the other. But man, at least with the establishment and at least with a government, you kind of know what you're going to get, right? The worst that a government can do to you is seize your assets if, let's say, you commit a crime or you are somehow a menace to society or you're a terrorist or this and that. Okay, maybe that's reasonable, but still there's an aspect of anti-freedom that kind of goes along with that, but it's still reasonable in comparison to really the unknown world of crypto. Now, you guys are going to have to, you know, educate me on that if I'm wrong about that, because remember, I'm not above correction, but if you guys, you know, feel different about crypto, let me know in the comment section below and why you think crypto is good for you or not good for you.
Exactly what I just talked about. But again, people are dumb enough to buy a celebrity's crypto coin, let alone a rapist's crypto coin. It's kind of their own fault. Like, what are we even talking about? But again, if that's what you want to harp on, then Conor doesn't have the moral high ground there. But for some reason, people are acting like he does. It just drives me nuts. And there's people here, there's fans of Conor McGregor, there's cult-like followers of Conor McGregor, like, yeah, man, Conor's so based, man. Conor knows what he's doing, man. He's calling him out. That's why I tweeted this. And this.
Okay, there we go. Nathan Crouch, shout out to you, my man. First time I seen you here. Let me know what part of the world you are from. He says, money is tax, assets not tax. Ah, okay. Money is tax, assets not tax. Is this in reference to crypto? If so, please elaborate on that a little bit if you can, please.
This really can kind of sum up the entire situation. Conor McGregor is literally out there raping people while his wife sits at home, 9 months pregnant, but he's demonizing Khabib for selling an NFT.
Look, I get it. I get that that's what Conor did. He's accused of being, you know, a rapist, allegedly. Okay, I get that. But at the same time, I hate when people look at one person's fault and then say, well, all right, but you did this. But to be honest with you, Conor raping people is totally irrelevant to the possible NFT scams that Khabib may have committed.
Could I put it any more plainly? This man was found civilly liable for sexual assault. Don't believe me? Take ESPN's word for it. A jury of his peers found it was more than likely Nikita Hand's version of events was true. That's the reality. That's the reality. So we're going to sit here and be like, oh, yes, Conor, thank you for calling him out. Thank you so much for calling him out. This is the man you're hyping up here. But these same people don't criticize Conor for this. They defend him. They're like, she's a liar. She's a liar. Well, the jury thinks otherwise. The jury who heard every piece of evidence thinks otherwise. But you still have fans defending him. You still have content creators defending him as well. But they have...
Yeah, like Fight Society, for example, right? You know, I'm going to call out Fight Society on this one. I mean, look, I love your content, bro. It's awesome, but, you know, honestly, man, you sound like a shill when you said, oh, my goodness, Conor McGregor is now a Christian. You got to love this. You possibly can't be human if you don't, you know, ascribe to this. I mean, look, I'm a little jaded on that. Maybe you're feeling a little bit optimistic on that. I get it, but that's kind of where we stand on that particular subject when it comes to Conor McGregor. I get the optimism behind it, but, you know, please forgive me. I'm a little more skeptical on, you know, on that note. So, Nathan Crouch says, gold, silver, collectible stock, and bonds are assets. Okay, no, I understand that, but crypto, what would you, I mean, would you classify crypto as an asset, or would you classify crypto as a tax, or some sort, what would you classify crypto in relation to that, is what I'm saying.
Have no facts to back it up. They have nothing to back it up with. And that's what this guy's doing. This guy, Wade, I remember seeing an interview he did with Dana a while back. He's a content creator. Here he is reposting Khabib's message. The auction has ended and all the Papapkas have been sold. Appreciate everyone who participated in it and become a holder of the great and exclusive digital gift with value that you can share with your friends and loved ones. Again, you can say, oh, you don't like the advertisement jargon. He never misrepresented anything. And you have this dude. I don't mean to be insensitive, but if you bought a pixel image of a hat, it has no value. And you could screenshot the same image and recreate it for free. You got scammed. I really can't understand how fucking stupid these people are. If you want to say, I think it was dumb you bought something like this, that is fair enough. But to act like it's a scam, you don't know what the word scam means then.
There it is. That's an important point that MMA Joey's making right here. You don't know what a scam is if you're calling this a scam, right? Just because you don't like it, just because you're not going to buy it, it does not mean that it's a scam. Okay, a scam is, well, somebody taking your social security number. Okay, a scam is having somebody take your information and using that information against you as a way to somehow, you know, do this, that, and the other, right? But yeah, that's what a scam is, right? Stealing your money without you knowing it. Buying something because you like it. Okay, for example, when I was at Universal Studios, right, I bought this Captain America action figure right here, right? Now, to some people, this is, you know, nothing. Some people are like, well, why would you buy this, right? This is worth nothing, right? You got scammed because guess what? How is an action figure, they can't even move their legs? How is it that you bought something that can't even move? It's not like an action a G.I. Joe action figure. Well, here's why. This is why. Okay, you want to write something down? Good. Okay, boom. There it is. I'm going to write something down right here. See, it's a pen. So it's not a scam. I didn't get scammed. I want to buy a pen. You may think I got scammed because I bought a toy that can't move around like, you know, an action, like a G.I. Joe action figure. But, you know, that's what it is. It's not a scam. I bought something and knowing what it is. Nathan Crouch says crypto can be an asset if you buy at the right time. Ah, okay. You see, that's where these things, you know, sort of get a little bit complicated, but okay, interesting enough.
You really don't. You don't know what the word scam means then. Because nowhere, in no way, shape, or form did Conor or did Khabib misrepresent anything that he was selling. And that's exactly what I tweeted out here. My question for fucking idiots like this, if you bought a digital hat because you wanted to buy a digital hat, you got exactly what you paid for. How is that in any way a scam? Imagine saying somebody was scammed for getting what they bought, but you think it's stupid and don't like the fighter that's selling it. I don't think I could have put it any clearer. And this guy responded and said, oh, Bizarro MMA Guru has arrived. I guess he means MMA YouTuber who isn't an incel that sits at home all day like a little bitch, okay? And I already broke him and made him quit, okay? But that's besides the point. Khabib used his reputation of his family and his father to push an essentially a valueless emoji that he claimed was like owning a papapka. Like, think about this. You guys tell me if I'm crazy. Read this sentence right here and tell me how this makes any sense at all. Essentially, a valueless emoji that he claimed was like owning a papapka. Is this dude trying to say that Khabib misled people into thinking a digital emoji would be the same as an actual real-world hat? Is that what he's trying to say here? Makes absolutely no sense. They put them up for auction so his fans would drive up the cost of them artificially. How are the fans artificially driving up the cost if they're buying it? It makes no sense. Now, this is one of the many scam shill jobs Khabib has promoted. Care to dig deeper? Apparently you don't. Apparently you don't. This makes no sense. Let me summarize this. Khabib put an NFT up for auction, and people who like Khabib bought that NFT. I mean, that's the synopsis. Again, make it make sense. Nobody in the comments will be able to make it make sense because this is not based on reality. This is not based on facts. This is based on an axe to grind.
There it is. It's based on an axe to grind. That's really what it comes down to, right? It's really what it is by the end of the day. It is just literally Khabib being an enemy of Conor McGregor, and as a result of that, we're going to use any low-hanging fruit to get at you.
For a multitude of reasons, one of them being Khabib took Conor's soul years ago, and the fans have never recovered, and they hate Muslim fighters because of it. And I will continue to call it out. I don't care. And I responded. So Khabib advertised something, and people bought exactly what he advertised. It amazes me people are so brain dead. They literally research nothing and just spew nonsense. Just because you think buying an NFT is valueless, I agree, doesn't make it a scam. Google what the word scam means. And then we got Big Ank. We got Big Ank in the building. Thank you, Big Ank. Auction raised $4.4 million in hours. Fans got verifiable ton blockchain assets, no rug pull or undelivered promises. Khabib called it digital gifts.
Wow, that's Big Ank. Hold up, man. That's the same guy that shows up in my live chats. How about that, man? That's Big Ank. Shout out to Big Ank MMA. All right, man. Shout out to you, my man. He says, limit your crypto spending 0.4 per crypto. Got it. Okay, so we got a real crypto guy in the house. Yeah, you definitely are a crypto guy, just by the way I can tell you are describing this. You, yeah, you know your stuff, man. So shout out to you. Okay, back to MMA Joey on this one.
With real value, and buyers agreed. Joey cooked you with this information. Joey cooked you. It's informed buying, not fraud. Why cape for McGregor amid his own scam accusations. I don't cope for McGregor, I guess. It's just crazy. These guys have no idea what they're talking about. The MMA media, the MMA content creator landscape is absolutely brain dead. It is brain dead. And we'll end with this. We'll end with this, and I'll just ask you guys this question. Can anybody find me a single person who bought the Khabib NFT who is claiming they have been scammed? Can anyone show me a single shred of evidence Khabib misrepresenting what he was selling? The answer to both those questions are no. We get it. You hate Muslims. And that's it. I mean, that's it. What else?
Okay, I read Intelligent Investor. Okay, so is that basically, you know, a magazine that sort of gives you information on this particular topic? Okay, I may look into that, you know, because obviously it's not anything that I'm really familiar with or highly educated in, but, you know, I would certainly like to, you know, dabble on it and kind of understand it, so.
What am I supposed to say? People are going to say I'm grifting for him. It's a made-up narrative, purely based on who Khabib is. They don't care when Conor's out doing this with his wife sitting at home 9 months pregnant.
It's a good book,
They do not care. They only look at Khabib, they see where he's from, and they see his religion, and they remember what he did to Conor McGregor on that fateful night. Matter of fact, let me actually pull this up real quick. I have another banger tweet that I should have had in this video. And they just cry about it. That's it. That's the reality of it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me scroll down. Yeah. Just got an exclusive look at Khabib's next NFT. I was able to put in an early pre-order. I have a feeling this one's going to be very popular. I just made all that up, but this is just an AI generated. This is what it all comes down to, guys. They've never gotten over this. They are still butthurt. Conor is still butthurt. So they have to be disgraceful. They have to stoop to low levels to make up fake narratives to try to disgrace his name. And luckily, Khabib called it out. He acknowledged it, and he embarrassed Conor McGregor for being the low-life piece of shit that he is. But it's just sad to me a lot of fans co-sign this. It's sad to me that you got content creators saying, oh, it's definitely a scam. I mean, it's definitely a scam. You can screenshot it. Just because you don't, I mean, I get scammed every time I buy a pay-per-view with Sean Strickland main eventing. I got scammed earlier this year in February. What was that, $298? No, it wasn't $298.
Well, listen, that's a little bit of a different scam, right? You know what I mean? Look, again, everyone uses scam, you know, around a little too much, right? Like even Fresh Melon Juice over here says, oh, well, you're doing a scam live again. And what does he mean by a scam live? Well, you know, sometimes when I am stepping out, I would play like an old video, or I would start out an intro playing some of my old videos, because I kind of want to get people to get reacquainted with the past content that I've done. So that's kind of a strategy that I do to kind of give people an expectation of what it is to look out for. But on any regard, it's not a scam. It's literally promoting your brand, but that's, you know, again, everybody has a different, you know, outlook on what they think a scam is. So, yeah, okay, so back to this video as we end this.
They fought at 297, but that was last year. 312? I got scammed at 312. I feel like, you know, buying UFC pay-per-views is kind of dumb half the time. Most people don't, honestly, anymore, because they think it's a scam. But to call this a scam because he advertised a product. Khabib advertised a product.
Well, what's an even bigger scam is actually using... what's an even bigger scam is using... what do you call it? What's a bigger scam is using the illegal sites to watch these fights. But yeah,
in partnership with Telegram, and then sold that product to people who were then happy with that product, regardless of what you think about it. To call that a scam just goes to show the type of hate you have in your heart and how low IQ you are, because if you actually believe it. I wanted to break this down because it was actually driving me nuts seeing people on Twitter talk about this. I know, Joey the contrarian, Joey this, Joey that. I don't give a rat's ass. I will always base my analysis on the facts of a situation. Like the video, subscribe to the...
All right, so, yeah, with that in mind, guys, I think we'll call it quits from here as well also. Nathan Crouch says, good investment right now is buying USA 95% copper pennies. Okay, so, guys, I want to thank you for everybody that pulled up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one. I will drop some videos sometime today. I may do another live stream, maybe not. Who knows? We'll see how the day goes. But on any regard, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, look out for the video that I'm about to make right now regarding Islam Makhachev, why he's not going to fight at the White House, and these are the reasons why that I'm going to give. If you guys were here on the live, you guys have already caught it, but I will put it on video form, edit it, and show you as a presentation as to why I don't think Islam Makhachev is going to fight at the White House. All right, with that in mind, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one, inshallah.